This is the Randomer Nintendo Podcast, episode 8 for Sunday, November 13th, 2022. I am today's host, Kevin. Next to me, virtually, as always, Jason.
Hello, I can't wait for the Monster Truck Rally to begin.
I've never been to a Monster Truck
Neither
rally.
have I.
Well, that's Angel, to my virtual right. Have you ever been to a Monster Truck Rally?
No, but I did play this Monster Truck game a ton with my brother. It was like Bigfoot Racing or something like that. I remember.
Wait, is that was that the one?
Is that the infamously terrible?
No, you're thinking of Big Rigs, the one where you could go and reverse so fast for actually your speed just increases infinitely. To my knowledge, there's literally no limit.
Just exponentially, just increase your speed.
But
wait,
the other one was a racing game where you play as the monster trucks, and I remember really liking this truck called Snakebite. That was my favorite.
Was this a console or arcade game? Because I remember there used to be the one in the 90s where the arcade cabinet was half of a hexagon, and you had to hit a pedal, and it was like rock and roll racing kind, but it was like a top down, and you're going around the track, and you're flying.
This definitely wasn't top down. This was a typical racing game perspective, but it was on PC.
Was Excite Truck like Ford Broncos, or was it like monster trucks?
Excite Truck?
Yeah,
just pickup
it
trucks.
was kind of like Ford Broncos. Yeah, it was standard trucks that got very excite. Yeah.
Gotcha. I used to work at the Staples Center, now known as the Crypto.com Arena.
Boo to the name, not you.
Yeah, and they
that name has not aged well.
Monster truck rallies.
Never did. Yeah.
And they did monster truck rallies at Staples?
Yes, inside, which is weird because it seems like such a small footprint.
It's a tiny footprint. I mean, because Angel Stadium down in Anaheim, which is a baseball stadium, obviously, they usually do monster truck rallies there, but I don't know, something about Staples feels smaller, like the physical space. I think it is physically smaller, yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, that always seemed weird to me, that they were able to fit monster trucks. Obviously, no more than 2 because of the footprint, but yeah, that always seems strange to me. That place seems really big once you if you, as someone who worked there, it obviously got really, really familiar and really, really small.
Yeah,
but I can see how it could seem big to somebody who isn't there constantly. I
mean, it is a 18,000, 20,000 seat.
22,000.
Actually, excuse me, arena.
If I'm not mistaken, it's 22,297 was the last number that I had to know by heart.
Well, that's still lost seats, regardless. So it is still big. It's just compared to other arenas. I get what you mean, totally.
Mm-hmm. Boy, it's been a minute since we recorded.
Yes, I was about to say that. It's been nice. It's nice to hear everyone's voices again. It's been so long.
It's funny. I was going to say that it feels like it hasn't been that long at all, but time doesn't really move at a normal pace for me. So take my comments with a grain of salt.
What's been going on with everybody? Angel just launched Thor Ragnarok.
Love and Thunder.
God of War Ragnarok.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Super
Congratulations on the launch.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome just seeing people's reactions. Obviously, I don't know, it's crazy being a part of that team, and the fact that not only it's not just any game, that it's one of my favorite franchises, and it's out the door. It's crazy. It's exciting. I'm happy.
And if I'm not mistaken, you had only just recently played the God of War games before you started your job at Sony Santa Monica, right?
I don't know if recent is a good way of putting it, because I started working there in 2020, and I got my PS3, I want to say, if I didn't have it, I'm pretty sure I had it right before I graduated college, which would have been 2011. And I want to say my brother, which is kind of how it all started, he gave me the God of War collection. It came with God of War 1, 2, and 3, Ghost of Sparta, and Chains of Olympus. And if it wasn't for that, I don't even know if I would have gotten those games, because they just never really caught my attention. I knew they were good. I've heard good things about them. But
they were out of your wheelhouse in terms of your game interests.
Yeah, I was just kind of breaking out of Nintendo at that point. Not that I'm completely out of Nintendo, but I was expanding my horizons. I mean, I literally got the PlayStation because of Little Big Planet, which is arguably like one of their more Nintendo-y games, but it's also very not Nintendo-y because of, the whole create whatever you want, which, Nintendo eventually did with Mario Maker. But also, I want to say I got into the God of War games like around 2012, 2013. And yeah, I played through all of them, like almost back to back, got really into them. And it was also, the collection was also in 3D, which was really awesome. So, and we had a 3D TV. So we got to take advantage of that.
Remember when that was a thing, 3D TVs, and every company was trying to sell you a 3D TV, and then poof, they just disappeared.
Yeah, it was awesome. What a shame. But yeah, love them so much. Then before you know it, I'm part of the team that launched God of War Ragnarok, so it's freaking nuts. But yeah, so that's been me. Very busy. And even outside of work, awesome. Just busy drawing, busy with... I don't even remember if this came up even in the last podcast, but like we're also moving to a new house, not super far away, just like to a neighboring city. I think we're neighboring.
Yeah, it's neighboring.
Yeah, it's neighboring.
Yeah, it's like a just like a nicer neighborhood. We're living like next to my sister, so now we're, it's great. We're living like a block and a half away from the oldest functioning McDonald's in the country, or I think just anywhere. Which is kind of cool.
Way to dox yourself. No, I was going to say, and for all those dear listeners at home, third-party outside perspective on the house, it's a nice house. He got a nice house. It's a cool house. It has a lodge that looks like it belongs in like Big Bear, like out in the woods in like a cabin, like a little den. It's cool. It's like kind of attached. It's a cool house.
Yeah, and and for someone that has a ton of collectibles and the sort, moving is kind of daunting, but little by little, we're getting there. We still have a long way to go, but yeah, I've pretty much had zero time like for anything. I've barely caught up with, outside of like the show that we're going to talk about later, like one of them is a show that I've been looking forward to since the last season ended, and even that one I haven't been able to keep up with outside of the episode I watched for the sake of discussing it here, which is says a lot because 20 minutes, but yeah. What about you, Jason?
I haven't done anything as monumental as launched the largest PlayStation 5 game to date. But actually, a lot of stuff that I've done, we're probably going to talk about because it's just like consuming content. But I guess the kind of big thing I did a couple weeks ago is I went out to Vegas to the When We Were Young Fest. The festival everyone said was Fire Festival, but actually it wasn't. It was actually extremely well organized and put on, and it was really cool. Yeah, so I spent the weekend there. But besides that, it's kind of, I would say, to sort of almost contrast you, you've been super swamped. I've just been kind of like around. Like I haven't had a whole lot going on at the moment. I'm about to go on a couple trips. Obviously I did Vegas, and I'm going to be going to New York soon for the first time since like 2015, which I'm really excited about because I love New York. But yeah, it's been pretty low key on this end. What about you, Kevin?
Let's get into it. One of the reasons that we haven't been able to record is because we've been so swamped. Angel with his launch and me with my work. So I've just been swamped with work these last, 3 weeks because, you two know why I've been swamped. Mainly has to do with a team, or mainly has to do with the events at the venue that I work at currently. But it's finally slowed down. We only have 2 major events next week, and after that, I'm clear until mid-January.
Nice.
So
well-deserved break.
Finally get a good break. And best part is that I don't even have to be at the office. I can just work from home.
Welcome to that luxurious life. It's so nice. I go in once a month now, but it's so nice to have to work from home. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice, and I feel like I'm more efficient because I'm not constantly interrupted by people and stuff. I'm interrupted by cats.
I feel the opposite. I have to be at the office for me to be more efficient.
I thought that would kind of be the case. I thought, if I'm home, there'll be all these distractions. I'll just go on Twitter or whatever comes after Twitter because Twitter looks like it's sinking like the Titanic. But, whatever, I'd go on whatever and just get distracted. But I've actually found that when I go into the office, I get significantly less done now because everyone's always just like poking their head over like, oh, what about this question and that question, or like this random thing. And it's just like, this would have been a 2-second chat on like Google Chat if I was at home. Now it's like a 10-minute conversation, and it's just, yeah. I sound extremely antisocial. I swear I'm not, but I've just noticed, surprisingly, I'm actually more efficient at home. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If you say
and I enjoy those conversations. I'm not saying I don't like people or anything, but yeah, it's just definitely faster at home.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, that's a little catching up with us. Let's get into the content that you guys listeners have been craving. I don't know if you guys have been craving it, but
they've been craving.
We're gonna talk about some stuff.
They've been craving. I'm speaking on their behalf because someone, I don't remember who, left us a comment during one of our "we're delaying our episode" things. They're craving, all right.
They're craving. Gotcha. I think the thing that has taken us by storm, or at least me and Angel, is Marvel Snap.
Oh yeah,
Angel.
Marvel Snap.
This thing is freakishly addictive.
Sell me on it, guys. I've seen everyone talk about it. I'm on the cusp.
I honestly,
I don't particularly play card games, but
I mean, as I'm playing it now, I just finished a game actually. I don't know.
Literally now, like right now.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as
now
a game
very real time.
you would like. I don't know. It doesn't scream Jason game to me. But then again, most card games don't. But that's just from what I know of you.
And that's why I've been hesitant so far. Because I used to play the Pokemon Trading Card game a lot as a kid, but I haven't touched any card game like this since. So
I would definitely say it's worth a try. But basically, yeah, for this game, I mean, it was already on my radar. Because Ben Brode, who used to be the main game director of Hearthstone, who pretty much like was one of the reasons like I got into Hearthstone. I knew of him when I started playing the game. Turns out a lot of his like choices were what made it so addicting and fun. But at the end of the day, that game it's best suited for like PC play or for like sitting down like on a big screen or something. Because games on average last like 11 minutes, and depending on the class and the opponent and the type of deck they're running, I've literally had games that lasted upwards of 30 minutes. And I would say like 90% of my Hearthstone play is on a phone. So you can imagine, like, first, like how much battery that drains, but also just kind of how annoying it is to have one game go on for that long. And while it is fun and I did enjoy it for many, many years, after reaching Legend rank, I believe it was last year or maybe it was earlier this year. But basically, that's like the highest rank you could possibly reach. Outside of being number 1 in the world. But yeah, I don't mind. Screw that. Yeah, I felt like I rolled the credits on it. Like I was happy with it. Like I still play it from time to time, but it's not like gotta do my weeklies or whatever. So I was kind of looking for something else to fill the void, and I do have Brawl Stars. Brawl Stars continues to be incredibly fun and addicting. I love that the games last no more than 2 minutes, but yeah, and then, Marvel Snap came along, and with that director guy behind it, I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, besides just like, I recognize a few people. We all know who Spider-Man is. But then at that point, it's no different than when I started playing Hearthstone. I didn't know who 90% of those people were. And even the ones I did know, I didn't even know who their names were. So now I still have like that reverse nostalgia when I see a World of Warcraft trailer and it's like, oh, it's that one card from Hearthstone. But yeah. But anyway, Marvel Snap. Already right off the bat, I love the fact that even though it's a trading card game, the deck limit is only 12 cards and you can only use one of each card. Building decks, it always takes a while. Some people really love it. It depends on the kind of deck, but for the most part, I just want to get into the game. Just like figuring, like, I will stress over like, oh man, do I run 2 of this card, 1 of this card? Should I run this package together? Blah, blah, blah. So this already kind of simplifies it a lot. Like, simplification, it really is just like the name of the game. And games are only 6 turns long. At most, a game I run for like 2 minutes. Maybe even that. Like sometimes it'll be like way, way shorter. But there are 6 turns. Every turn you get, I guess, 1 plus energy. So you start with 1 energy. Then on turn 2 you have 2 energy. Turn 3 you have 3, 4, so on until you have 6. And that is essentially your currency. So if you have a 1 energy cost card, you could play that one on turn 1. if you have 2 of those on turn 2, then you can play those 2 cards. But some cards cost 5 and some cards cost 6, which means you have to wait until you get to the last turn to play your finisher, so to speak. And I thought it would get repetitive really quickly, and I guess it kind of does, but it's not really a problem. Like, I do find myself playing a lot of the same cards in the exact same turn, but it's always different, or it always feels different, because the game introduces like a location mechanic. Basically, there are 3 locations, and for the first 3 turns, they are revealed in consecutive order. So on turn 1, you know what 1 is. Turn 2, you get another. Turn 3, you get a third. And you have to win 2 out of 3 of those locations by having more power in that said location, which is a number on the top right of the card. So if I play a Wolverine, for instance, he's like a 3 power card. If my opponent only has a Nightcrawler, who is a power 2, then I'm winning that location. And if they play no other cards there, then I win that location, and I just have to win one other one to win the game. And that's essentially it in a very simple nutshell. But quickly you learn that it's very much, way more so than Hearthstone. I would say like a mind game. Like, it really is about just like playing a card in a certain spot. Like, especially because they're like, for instance, like a lot of people in the beginning play the Guardian of the Galaxy cards, which are, if your opponent plays a card in the same place that you played your Guardian that turn, so Rocket Raccoon, for instance, then Rocket Raccoon will essentially double his power. So you almost like thinking like, okay, they probably think I'm going to play on this space, so I'm going to play on this other space. But the aforementioned locations are also completely random, and there's a ton of them, and there are new ones introduced every Tuesday. And those can range from all cards on this location get plus 5 power, or cards on this location lose -3 power, or every time you play a card here, you shuffle 3 0 power rocks into your deck, which is really annoying. Or if you play a card here, it immediately gets destroyed. So you have to find creative ways to get cards there, or maybe you're just hosed and you can't do anything like with that location. But yeah, it's just about adapting. Not every deck is going to work for everything, but the game has a retreat mechanic, which I think is really smart, because if you know you're going to lose, you can just hit retreat and you'll just lose like a cube, which, do you want to explain the cube mechanic? Because that's probably like the crux of it. Where,
yeah, for sure. So
is that the snap?
That's the ranking.
Yes,
mechanic.
Exactly. Yeah, so there is a ranking system in this game. Every 10, I guess, cubes, which is at the end of each match, you will win or lose cubes.
Minimum 2, or I guess max 2.
Minimum 2, maximum 2 if no one snaps. And what snapping is, you touch the cube at the very top of the screen, and that basically means you're trying to tell your opponent, hey, I'm going to beat you. It's almost like you're betting on the game, right? But you could also be bluffing, although I've never exactly bluffed. But like, let's say I snap. That means by the end of the game, 4 cubes will be up for stakes. So either they're going to win 4 cubes and I'm going to lose 4, or I'm going to win 4 and they're going to lose 4 cubes. Where it gets like real fun is when you both snap, because then that means that 8 cubes are now going to be up for grabs. And so that is what it's going to dictate how much you level up your rank or de-level your rank. So 8 cubes is pretty much an entire rank. 10 cubes gets you up in the rank. Well, I guess it's... How do I explain this?
It does sound like you're kind of saying not only do the games go fast, but if you do the snap system, your own progression through the system, through the ranks and everything can go just as... Like, the whole game just sounds very speedy.
Yeah,
if you play your cards right,
absolutely.
pun intended.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, you call their bluff. Like, if they snap at you, you're like, oh, no, like, I actually have the upper hand, so I'm going to snap back. But... Or, if they snap, then you go like, yeah, I already wasn't sure I was going to win, and they're snapping. I'm just going to retreat, and... The nice thing is...
like, just lose, 1.
Yeah. As long as you don't let the turn end, as soon as one person snaps, if they retreat before the end of the turn, then they will only lose the 1 cube instead of the 4. Which is
But you also only win 1 cube, which is very frustrating because I hate it when they snap and then I snap back and then they retreat. Oh, it's so irritating.
Yeah.
I love how this whole thing, if you don't know what you're talking about, it sounds like people are just having mental breaks nonstop. Like, they snapped at me, and then I snapped back at them, and I only got 1 cube. I was so frustrated. It just sounds like everyone's, like, breaking.
Knowing when to snap can also be its own thing, because I've noticed you have more success with people not retreating, or maybe it's just because it's kind of dirty, is you wait for the timer to almost run out on the last turn, and then you snap. That way, they almost don't have a chance to react to the snap or to hit the retreat button. So they're almost guaranteed to lose 4 cubes anyway. But, there are some people that will literally snap as soon as the game starts. Like, whether they saw their first hand and they're like, oh, I got this. Or, they're just YOLOing it and that's just what they do.
I do that every now and then. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, let's see how this round goes.
But I guess...
go
for it.
I was just going to say, the big question I have as someone that isn't, as you point out, is versed in card games, and maybe this isn't the right game for me. If I did want to try it, how far can I get without having to pay anything? Like, how heavy-handed is the free-to-play mechanics versus is it just different, booster packs or things like that? Or do you earn those in the game?
No.
How's that work?
So, as far as I understand it, everybody unlocks the same cards. Cards are hidden on, like, this track, on, like, this player progression track, and everybody shares that same track. So everybody will have the same cards. Where the, like, it's not even pay to win, because I feel like the game is pretty well balanced. There are season passes, so this season, in conjunction with Wakanda Forever releasing, the cards on the season pass are Black Panther themed. So, you have Black Panther, Okoye, and Nakia that are on the season pass track that you can pay $10 for, and that's really the only way to unlock Black Panther. Aside from that, you have to upgrade your cards. In order for you to progress on this track, where you unlock the same cards as everybody else. And to do so, you need boosters, which you will randomly get at the end of each match, and credits, which you get by doing, like, your weekly missions, your daily missions, which are just, like, can range anything from, like, just play 10 cards and you'll get 25 credits, or like some of the hard ones, which will be like, you have to play nothing but six power cards, and you have to play about 20 of those, and then here's 500 credits. And that will give you enough currency to upgrade your cards. And of course, the more you upgrade them, the more expensive they get, and so that's sort of where the game nudges you a little bit, like, hey, for $3 you can get 500 credits, but generally you can get away with not paying anything at all.
Yeah, it's pretty lenient in that front, and even then, just to kind of like clarify something about the season pass track, like Okoye, Nakia, and Black Panther for this season, like Okoye and Nakia are just variants, because those you can unlock through the normal track already. Like, I'm sure Kevin and I already have both of them. You're just getting new styles of them. Black Panther, and in the last season it was Miles Morales, is more of like a get it early, but 2 months after that season ends, they're going to be added to the pool of cards. Because on that...
Oh, interesting.
So basically, all the cards are still 100% free. It's just whether you want to get them now. So right now, I'm not the biggest fan of Black Panther, so they're like, okay, I don't feel tempted to get it. But the Miles Morales one, the final card on the track was a variant of Miles Morales that is straight up from Spider-Verse. And I'm like, oh man, I love that one. I have to get it. So I did pay for that one. And considering how much I've played, $10 is more than fair.
Right.
But the other thing is too, like, when you upgrade your cards, you only get points for the cards that are in your deck when you're playing the game, which is a nice, cool way of basically making it feel more rewarding to upgrade cards, because they're cards you're actually using. It's not like it's going to ask you to upgrade Groot, and it's like, oh, I've never even played Groot. Like, I don't want to upgrade that.
It's like your Pokemon in your party. The 6 you carry with you are the ones that get their experience, and the ones you don't.
And the upgrades are very prominent, like, to your opponent. Like, well, maybe not in the beginning, but essentially, first you just have your card. Then when you upgrade it the first time, the character art, like, breaks out of the frame. So you get kind of like a little visual flair to it. Then after that, you get a 3D effect to it, where if you move with your gyroscope, or you just move the card around, you get a really nice layering effect. It's probably the most prominent one I've seen in this kind of thing. Then after that, it's animated, but the animated is so subtle on some cards you can barely even tell they're animated. And then you get a shiny logo, and I didn't think you get an animated border, which I think you could barely tell is there. You could just tell that it's red, and that's how you know, like, oh man, they've been really playing this card.
When you're upgrading your cards, you're not upgrading their stats or their abilities. You're literally just upgrading the card, like the artwork on the card.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like making it a foil card, basically, so it looks more special to you.
Yeah.
This all sounds like really clever ways to keep the game accessible to newer players that are joining later on. Like the fact that the season pass cards are available in the general pool a couple months later. The fact that all the upgrades you do don't necessarily make the card better. They just add some pizzazz to show that you like the card.
And what's great about it, what's great about it is that for the few games that I have lost, I've never, that was a humble brag.
I was about to say, humble brag much.
I've never felt that I've lost those games because they paid to have a stronger card. Like, I've never felt a pay to win. I've never felt that I've lost because they paid to have a better card than me. There are still cards that there's still brand new cards that I keep seeing because people are much farther ahead. I barely started playing like 4 days ago. But I've already put like 10 hours into this game. It's freakishly addictive. And the fact that each game can only really last up to 3 minutes is like fantastic.
That's what was appealing to me. Is I feel like so many of these card games, like Hearthstone, or
it really resolves that Hearthstone issue I mentioned in the beginning. It's a nice balance.
Yeah, that's so short. Because even like the digital version of Pokemon Trainer game, like those take a while. Hearthstone's a little quicker, I know, but those take a while. And I think for me, part of the reason I never really done is like I don't mind little essentially brain teasers or little like puzzles to figure out when like in a competitive sense, which is kind of what a card game ultimately is. But if it's like a 20-minute deal where you're basically playing chess against someone, it's like okay. But if it's like 2 or 3 minutes, that might actually be appealing to me and probably to a lot of people who wouldn't dive into deeper ones.
Yeah,
which makes putting the Marvel license on it that much more interesting because they know this sort of rapid fire game has the potential for that mass appeal. So they might as well put the biggest properties in the world on it to further enhance that appeal.
There are definitely a lot of cards or like, characters I'm like, I don't know who this is, or I don't know who this is, or it's like, oh, it's that rock dude from, Love and Thunder. Oh, not Love and Thunder.
You don't know who that is? Tisk. He's in both. Korg.
Oh,
he's in both.
Well, yeah. Yeah, so, stuff like that. But the other, I guess, point of contention that's been kind of like part of the reason some people really love it or some people are kind of annoyed by it is that there is, that rewards track again. The first, I don't know how many levels are fixed. Like everyone is going to get those exact same cards as they progress up to, I want to say like Odin. Like once you get Odin, it's like, okay, cool. After that, they're all random. Well, we'll talk about.
Oh, interesting.
So basically, like up to you, as you're going on the rewards track, some cards like you straight up see which one you're going to get. And then you unlock it, cool, it's in your deck. But then at some point, they're just going to turn into question marks. And what that means is that at that point, you could have gotten, say, Iceman way before someone else. Or someone could have gotten Killmonger way before someone else. So their idea was that it's like back in the old days where you open up a booster pack and you got that rare card that everyone else had to deal with because you got it. And maybe they won't get it, ignoring the fact that trading is a thing because in this world you can't trade anything. But what kind of helps mitigate this because there are a ton of cards in the deck, so it's not like, oh man, this person got, what's a good card right now? I guess I'll just say Professor X just to throw a card out there. Professor X. like, just because someone has Professor X doesn't mean they're going to be dominating forever, because they are split into pools. So when you start the game, you're basically in pool 1, which is comprised of, like, let's just say, like, 30-something cards. So of those random cards, you're only going to get cards from pool 1 until you get all of them in pool 1. So you're only going to be playing against other people that haven't completed the pool 1 pool of cards.
That'll be my question.
So you might,
how do they balance?
So you might still get cards that other people
don't.
You might have, you could argue you might have a little advantage here and there, but it's the same for everybody. So it's kind of cool. Like, you see some cards you haven't seen before, they might see some cards they haven't seen before. Makes it feel that much more personal because it's your collection. And then once you collect all the ones in pool 1, the next question mark card is you're gonna start going into pool 2 cards, and then it suddenly becomes really open again, and cards that may not have had anything to synergize with in pool 1 may now suddenly have, like, oh, this is what these cards were for. Like, now here's like the makings of a move deck, which I really, really love to use. And
oh man, I got my ass beat by a move deck recently.
Oh man,
I didn't even know was possible to destroy somebody with a move deck, but it destroyed me.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like Kevin, like, my phone is now filled with just screenshots of, like, game-winning scenarios where I have, like, the whole field with, like, multiple men, and they're all, like, +7 or 10 or higher, or, like, stuff like that. Like, just, like, a bunch of high...
Absolutely.
And
I remember placing I forgot what location it is, where you get copies of them as soon as you lay the card down. I think it was a Sinister bar, I think.
Yeah, Bar Sinister, yeah.
Bar Sinister, yeah. And I remember I was getting my... the middle location, I had nobody there, but that's because I had a claw in my hand. And so I just put them on Bar Sinister, and that middle location, I had no cards, but Claw's ability is when you reveal them, the location to your right gets +6. So as soon as I play Claw there, not only that, but Claw is also like a 4 power card. So I was at +16 because I had 4 Claws there, plus 24 because of all the abilities that Claws had that moved onto that location. And then I think I played like a Namor and got it to +34, and that's how I won that one. Oh, it's so satisfying.
Those moments are great.
The mind games that you're playing with the other person, and like you're strategizing for yourself, but you also have to think about whatever your opponent is thinking, and based on their card, you can also assume what kind of deck they run. Like, I'm sure, Angel, you have multiple decks, right? Like,
yeah,
I have an ongoing deck. I have an on-reveal deck. I have decks that revolve around just one character that I need to play at the end. Like, it's very versatile.
Yeah, I would say of all the decks I have, the move deck is definitely up there. But it's like my second favorite deck. But my favorite deck is a control deck, which is basically a shut down your opponent from doing stuff, or let them think they're doing stuff and then completely, like, neutralize them. Like, I'll run cards like Enchantress that negate the effects of, like, ongoing cards, or I'll run Cosmo that negates the effects of on-reveal cards. Or my two favorite is Storm and Professor X, where, depending on the field, by turn 5, sometimes it's clear, like, oh, okay, they're definitely going to try to play a card here because they want to win that location. So since this one's empty, I'm going to play Professor X there, and his ability is prevent any cards from moving in and out of or being played on this place. So if he's the only card there, then I just automatically win it, like nothing. And Storm, she will not only neutralize the effect of a location, but on the following turn, if you don't play a card there, it becomes flooded and no one can play cards there anymore. So typically, I'll play Storm on a location that already has one of my cards or none of theirs, and then it'll be flooding, and then the next turn I'll play, Jessica Jones, because she doubles her power on the turn after you don't play a card in that location, which is going to be flooded by then anyway, and suddenly I win that location without really doing anything. So, yeah, a lot of great scenarios like that. But once you reach pool 3, which is, I guess, the final pool at the moment, there are so many cards there, and that's where the strategies get really crazy that, yeah, it's going to be a while before you collect it, especially because the rewards track starts to really slow down. Like, before it would take, 2 collection levels to unlock something new. I'm at the point where it takes like 6 to unlock something new. Like whether it's, more boosters or credits or whatever's. See, what's my level at? I'm at 467 on my collection level.
Yeah, I'm barely up to level 116.
Damn. But yeah, it's fun.
Like I said, I've only been playing like for 4 days, but it's very fun.
So I would give it worth a shot, Jason. I mean, especially the tutorial is like pretty. It's pretty straightforward. Like they force you through it, so you're gonna learn how to play. But
right.
But,
and not just a tutorial. To be fair, this whole pool thing you're describing is very much a Nintendo style ramp up into the expertise of the game. Like the way that they section out certain cards, and then those cards, as you move into the next pool, and the next pool, based on what you're saying, become more useful in different ways with new systems and stuff that other cards introduce. That's a very Nintendo style player ramp up. So it sounds like they got that down cold,
wacky,
which is great.
And just like to give like a few more examples, like besides we've already mentioned move decks, which are about moving your card from one location to another. I've already talked about control decks, shutting down your opponent. Kevin had mentioned on reveal decks, which is when your card is flipped face up. That's when it does something. And usually those are really powerful. Or there's ongoing effects where every time you play a card, this gets powered up. And then there are discard decks where every time you play a card like Blade, he's like a really strong level 1 cost minion, but because he's really strong, he discards the card from your hand. But there's a card named Hela, which Thor's sister. When you play her on turn 6, she will summon every card that was discarded that game. So if you discarded some really strong stuff, or if you just jam-pack your hand with like really high cost stuff, then you're gonna, basically win the game as soon as you play Hela, like almost every time. But yeah, they get crazy. There's even a deck, I think it's one of the versions of the discard game that uses Agatha. I believe she's like the villain from that one show.
WandaVision. Yeah, and she's getting her own spin-off. Yep.
And her deck, she's a really interesting card because she'll always start in your opening hand, but she will play cards for you until you get her out of your hand. So she just plays and she won't cheat out cards. She'll play if you have nothing to play, you'll have nothing to play, but she may not play them in the location you want. But usually the idea is you want her to play cards that discard so that they'll discard her so that you get control back so that then she gets summoned later because she's a pretty powerful card. Or she might just end up playing herself, like on turn 4. But
interesting.
Yeah. And there's also
interesting.
And there are some cards that aren't even available in the pool whatsoever that you could get randomly. Like there's a card called Agent 12 or 13. I don't know if you've played this card yet, Kevin. But
no, I think I've had it played against me.
But it's like some woman with a sniper, and basically she gives you just a random card, and you can get Galactus through that, which is currently the only way you can get it. And Galactus will straight up, he's like a 3 power, so he's pretty low power wise. But if you play him in a location, and if the location happens to be when you're already winning, or your opponent decides I don't need to play something that in that location because I'm already winning the other 2, Galactus will straight up blow up the other 2 locations he's not in and all the cards there. So it almost kind of neutralizes the game at that point. It's you have to hope you're running a destroy deck where the idea is that you destroy your own cards, which may help populate that missing place. But yeah, Galactus is kind of nutty. Apparently Thanos is there too, but I have not even seen what he's like. So kind of excited to run into him. But
yeah, this game's fantastic. One of the best free-to-play games to release in recent history.
And actually, one more thing to note is this is it, and it should have been clear by now, but it doesn't really feel like a cash grab like other mobile games. Like the interface.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It doesn't sound like it at all.
I would say I still actually it's been getting a little more clustered the more things they add to Hearthstone, but I would still say that Hearthstone is still my favorite UI just for getting into a game and playing. But Marble Snap might be topping just because it's so quick and easy. That was why I couldn't get into Teppen, the Capcom one, because that game feels like it's shoving monetization at your face, and you're just going through menus and it's where's my deck? How do I move these cards? Where do I go to play even a game? And it just doesn't even feel optimized. It feels kind of laggy. This menu for Snap feels snappy and responsive, pun intended. And but more than anything,
go for it. What the thing to add to like your UI, like there are 5 options at the bottom of the screen. Like the middle one is like where you play, and then off to the left is that location. For the monetization stuff, it's all the way to the left. So it's not like it's the very first thing that you're going to see. Of course, the first thing that you're going to see is them like advertising their like season pass, because of course. But aside from naturally, aside from that, you don't have to, unless you're going all the way to the shop, which is all the way to the left. You are never going to see buy more to be able to do this. You know, like pay $3 to be able to do this. It's
exactly.
Great. That being said, I have bought a variant card. I bought the variant Jessica Jones because Jessica Jones is probably one of my favorite cards. So
yeah,
I did buy her.
I saw the picture you posted. I was like, "Damn, that is a nice variant." Yeah, if I see
it is a nice variant, right?
Yeah, and that's what they get you too. Like it's cool. Like I mean, you do get gold. Variants are kind of expensive, but you know, if you have enough gold, then you're patient enough, you could get one. But if you see one you really really like, and if you've invested a ton of hours into the game, I think it's fair to like show some support.
Splurge a little bit. Yeah.
But what I would say
at that point, well, I mean, you paid for it, but you earned paying for it.
Last thing I wanted to mention though was something that right from the get go, you know, kind of going to the whole like, yeah, you could tell they really cared about this game, or just wanted to make it like as, I guess, enthralling as possible. Like in Hearthstone, every card when you play it has a voice line, just like in Marvel Snap. Like they'll say something. Neat little detail. But in Hearthstone, it's only when you play a legendary card, which, you know, are the rarest cards to get, and usually like the ones with the biggest effects, they'll have like some kind of like animated flourish. And yeah, like the ones in Hearthstone are definitely way more elaborate, but you know, it's only a few cards that have it. In Marble Snap, almost every single card has an animated flourish, and sometimes it's even just when you're holding and dragging the card around when you're deciding where you're going to place it, which is super cool. Like little detail they did not need to do, like if you're holding Ant-Man, the card will shrink down as you're holding it, or Iron Man will have like jet propulsion jets or whatever under him, or Spider-Man will swing around.
Star-Lord will also have the same thing. Yeah, it's super cool.
And Miles Morales will do a little flippy flip when you drop them. Like,
that also points to it being not just a cash grab, and that there's actual like passion behind the project.
Yeah,
like little things like that. We talked about it with Nintendo stuff back in Norman time, but like you can tell when the team making something is extremely proud of what they're doing, extremely passionate about what they're doing. Like, even if you look at, like, all the little nips and tucks. I said this when the Switch came out. If you look at all the little nips and tucks with the Switch interface, where you, like, put the Joy-Con on, it does that little rubber band thing on the side with the sound effect, and the little rubber band thing matches the color of the Joy-Con. The Wii U didn't have any little flourish like that. They knew they nailed it with the Switch, and they had fun with it. And it sounds like they're doing the same with Snap. Like, they know they're nailing it. That's how they're able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, while I do see myself continuing to play this game for, I guess, as long as it holds my attention, which it feels like it's going to be a while, I would love to see this studio tackle another property. I mean, if I had to, like, if anyone would do Nintendo, I think I would hope they would do it, but, you know, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. But, yeah, I mean, it's introducing me to Marvel characters. I don't know who Infinite is, but he seems interesting. I'm sure if he pops up in a Marvel movie, I'll be like, oh, it's that dude from Snap. That would make it a little cooler. But yeah,
I will say I'm on the page to download it right now on the App Store. I have a very small window to try this out because right now this weekend is both the Splatfest and Splatoon 3 for Pokemon and Pikmin Bloom's 1-year anniversary Community Day weekend. So I'm kind of juggling both already. And then Pokemon Scarlet and Violet comes out Friday, so I have like a 4-day window after this weekend to try it. So I'm downloading it now to get ready. In the description for the game, it has selling points like super fast games. Every match feels different. Snap to raise the stakes. And then there's literally just a bullet point of I am Groot. And it says I am Groot, 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 I am Groot. And that's literally a whole piece of their selling point. And there's more selling points under it. So even just that, like in the middle of the selling points, just make a joke. Yeah, it's what?
And none of those are lies. None of those bullet points are lies.
Oh, they're not?
They're not.
That's fine. Well, is Groot in the game yet? Because that one would be later.
He's in the game.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to touch on Splatoon 3?
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wanted to talk about it in the context of, let me work towards it. Am I the only one that's keeping up with the Marvel MCU stuff on Disney Plus these days?
Yes.
Okay.
Although, to be fair, I finally saw Love and Thunder like 2 weeks ago. It was fine. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fine, right? It's okay.
Fine.
It's not.
Like, it's not
people
the
were
worst thing
over
in the world.
dramatic.
Like,
it's no Ragnarok, but
like, it was like, oh, this is the end of the MCU. It was fine. It was a little overindulgent, but like, it's fine. Chill out.
Yeah, the goat joke was a little like 3 years ago on the internet, but it's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll survive.
But okay, well, let me explain why I want to start with MCU to get to Splatoon. Because here's what happens when you guys don't give me a podcast to talk about in a month. Because like I said, I had a really loose schedule. You guys are busy, completely understandable. But my mind starts working in weird ways, and I start going in weird directions with stuff. And the thing that sprung up to me is about a month ago, She-Hulk ended and Werewolf by Night were released. And these are two MCU properties that actually did things a little different than most of the MCU. So if you look at kind of the MCU in general, you got the movies. They kind of stick to a certain formula. There's variations within it, but they pretty much stick to a single formula. Then they start going into TV, and you got like WandaVision, which was like, what if we had the plot of the movie, like the acts of the movie, divide up into the first 2/3 being almost like little TV shows, and then the back third is just the big CG third act, the world's ending, we gotta save the world type of thing. And I was like, okay, maybe they're moving in a different direction. And then every show since, to varying degrees, was basically that same idea of, well, let's chop up a movie into episodes, and then it'll end with a big third act, the world's gonna end, we need to save it type of thing. She-Hulk and Werewolf by Night broke the pattern. And that was cool. And it was really cool to see Marvel being open to changing things. And what I realized in watching that is, and this is eventually how we'll tie into Splatoon 3, is there is an art to change. There's an art form to making change work in a way that won't disrupt things too much, but will give just enough to kind of keep people interested and bring in additional people. So I feel like with She-Hulk, to start there, what I really liked about She-Hulk is they didn't feel the need to make it, and it's funny that I'm starting with MCU because we were just talking about Marvel for so long, but I feel like with She-Hulk, they didn't seem to feel the need to make it this super, I don't know how to describe it. Basically, it wasn't a movie chopped into parts. They were independent episodes. They kind of had like, it was like kind of a Monster of the Week story of almost like lawyer show with a different crime meets like kind of like a, like I said, a Monster of the Week. And there were through lines of plots or overarching plots, but like you could probably skip one and still get the gist of it. And more to the point, because they were breaking it up, they were able to do things that didn't really necessarily need, I wouldn't call them filler episodes, but they weren't like core to, there's a wedding episode that had one little thing that tied into the other, but it was mostly just a wedding episode. There was, some where it focused more on like her day job, somewhere it focused more on her relationships. And it was just nice that it didn't have to fit this mold of the Marvel origin show, movie, whatever, starts with here's a person, here's how they got their superpowers, here's what happens once they have their superpowers, here's a world-ending thing they have to address. Like this one, it stayed more on her normal everyday life, like she was not as much She-Hulk in terms of like fighting baddies and that sort of thing. It's more about like her internalizing becoming She-Hulk and what that means and how the world kind of looks at this idea of She-Hulk. There's a lot of like kind of women empowerment stuff in there, but it was very like structured in a way where it was like not just she became She-Hulk, she fought random bad guy X, everything's okay. Even like the final act, I won't spoil it, it's very meta, but even that one, they kind of, while still being the big third act that uses a lot of CG like every Marvel thing, they kind of swerved it and did it differently. And it was just nice to see that Marvel kind of knows what works, which is a certain style of humor, a certain sort of tone, tie-ins with other things in their universe, but they were willing to actually experiment with the things that they thought could maybe broaden their horizons or bring in a different audience, and that was, more of an episodic thing. It wasn't a 6-part miniseries. It was like a 10-episode or 9-episode or something like show, and it felt like a show, not a chopped-up movie, and that was really nice. So I think Marvel's starting to kind of better understand, like, how to go about changing their formula and kind of what the art of, I guess, making changes can be, if that makes sense. And then the other side of that was Werewolf by Night, which was the first of what Marvel's now doing called special presentations, where they're these one-off, self-contained things. And the one coming out next is Guardians of the Galaxy's Holiday Special, which looks a little more like standard Marvel fare. But what Werewolf by Night did that I thought was cool is, much like She-Hulk, Marvel kind of recognized what works in the universe, what doesn't, and then experimented with it. They're open to changing certain things. So in the case of Werewolf by Night, they realized, okay, well, maybe what if we don't have an origin story? What if we just kind of dump you in the middle of a situation? And then through the situation, you get kind of your cool moments. We keep the humor. We keep sort of a big climax, although at smaller scale, because it's only a 45-minute special, so it's not like a world-ending thing. But, you know, like, what if we toy with the formula a little and change these other aspects and see how that goes? And it was really just kind of refreshing. It wasn't anything to write home about. It wasn't like the most amazing Marvel thing they've ever done, but it was a fun, especially going into Halloween, like a fun 45, 50-minute little self-contained romp. And, of course, because it's Marvel, there are hooks in there that can play into bigger MCU stuff. There's a creature in there that apparently guards the multiverses or something. So there's like little things like that. But for the most part, it's just really cool, again, to see Marvel be like, you know what? We can actually try changing things. And they kind of found the right, at least on some level, like the art form of how do you change that? What is like the art of change, like how you change something in a way that will still stay true to what got you here and what fans like, but also can start experimenting in another direction. Could they have done a little more? Could they have done this sooner with other projects? Probably. But looking at what they did, and then looking at something like Black Adam, and then looking at something like Splatoon 3, and then bear with me, looking at something like the Twitter conundrum these past 2 weeks, it's really interesting to see who understands like how to properly go about implementing change and who understands or doesn't understand at all. Like Black Adam, for example, I would say is closer to getting it right, but Black Adam, so that's the DC side of things, right? And there, they definitely did what Marvel did. They made like an itemized list of, so here's what we think works in our DC universe, which in this case is apparently weird sped up and slow down action shots that Zack Snyder loves to do, but now by a different director. They somehow took a takeaway that you need to have a kid that's empowered at some point, which I think was a learning they got from Shazam, and I don't think they quite understood that learning. Like, I don't know if that's a real learning, but they ran with it. Like, you could see the threads in Black Adam where they were trying to rearrange the hierarchy of the DCU or whatever they used to say, but they just didn't quite master the art of like finding what worked well and what didn't, and figuring out what things to change and what not to change going forward. Like, it still kind of felt like, I feel like Shazam did it more interestingly, Aquaman did it more interestingly, but like Black Adam, which was sold as this huge like sea change of the DC film universe, like this is it, this is where everything changes forever. Like, it actually, they weren't as good at that art of change. Like, they didn't quite as much understand the things that people loved from, at least in my opinion, the things that people thought were more interesting in the DC movies, and ran with those. They ran with sort of the lessers. Like, there's stuff from Aquaman that didn't seem learned here, but they instead learned more from the Snyder stuff. So, you know, there's like different degrees of change, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know if this makes any sense, but this is like everything I've been watching since those two Marvel shows has been through this lens of like, well, do they understand change? Like, do they get change? Because even like Splatoon, you know, we were talking about for so long before it came out, they're not changing it enough. They're not changing enough. They're not doing enough, you know? And then Nintendo put out their sales numbers, and it was kind of interesting because, you know, a normal round Nintendo, if this was before the new show, I'd tell you guys, you know, all these different stats and stuff. But what I thought was interesting is we were like, Splatoon 3 doesn't seem different enough. There's not enough change. But I think Nintendo actually identified the right change, because here, at the end of the day, just to throw a few numbers at you real quick, Switch isn't doing as hot at the moment. The hardware is down like 19% year over year. I know it's mostly semiconductor shortages supposedly, but it's down 19% year over year. They're lowering their forecast by 10%, so it's 19 million for the whole fiscal year instead of 21. But software went up 1.6%. And some of that was Switch Sports. It sold like 6 million. Some of that was Mario Strikers. It sold like 2 million. Xenoblade, I think, sold 1.7 million. And, you know, Mario Kart's still selling 3 million every quarter. Kirby sold another 2 million. It's now the best-selling Kirby game of all time. But the biggie was the one that we were like, they're not changing it enough. Splatoon 3, 7.9 million in like a month. That's 60% of what Splatoon sold in 5+ years in a month. It's, in Japan alone, already outsold the entirety of Splatoon 1's lifetime sales. Like, clearly, Nintendo chose something right with Splatoon 3, and I was thinking about it again under this weird lens of like change and how Marvel like seems to be inching in certain ways and understanding what works on their shows and movies and what they can experiment with. Like, they know, like I said, like they know the humor works. They know kind of the tie-ins work, but they have a little room to wiggle with maybe how they present the story. Or do they focus on the real life or the superhero life and like stuff like that? I feel like Nintendo, contrary to what we were saying, made probably a very itemized list of, okay, here's what works with Splatoon. The battle systems work well. The different modes work well. The customization we offer works well. What doesn't work well is the online matchmaking. What doesn't work well is some of the limitations. What doesn't work well is how far gaming has gone with online like spaces and expressing yourself in those spaces in the time since Splatoon 2. And thus, Splatoon 3, suddenly, if you look at it, the system, like the game systems are the same, the modes are the same. Salmon Run doesn't have a limitation anymore. Customization is a huge focus point now. You can customize like triple what you could before. You get emotes, you get title tags, you get your locker. And then the other big thing they fixed was the online infrastructure. The app's way more useful. You get way more information in it. The lobby system is way better. The matchmaking is way faster. And I think looking back now, they were kind of following the same sort of playbook that Marvel did well, that DC did a little less well with Black Adam maybe, but just this idea of like identify what works well, keep that, and then just kind of build around that. Meanwhile, we were seeing here, like, they need a new mode, they need to reinvent, they need to do all these things. And I mean, the numbers don't really lie. Like, Splatoon's killing it right now off that approach. And I think, to a large degree, what Nintendo saw, what Marvel sees, what DC's trying to see maybe, is I'm trying to figure out how to word this. There is an audience untapped. There's an untapped audience. If you know you have something that works well, you can experiment with the other parts that don't work as well, but keep the core, and that core can still, if you match it with better surrounding attributes, can make for a thing that draws in more people. The fact that Splatoon 3 didn't actually change its gameplay like at all, but did all these other like quality of life improvements, that's drawing in a lot of people. I mean, at the end of the day, there are 106 million active Switch players in the past year. There are 36 million Switch Online subscribers. There are 290 million people who made Nintendo accounts. 800 million people who have tried Nintendo's mobile games. Splatoon 2 sold like 13 million. So clearly they have confidence in the core, but there's so much improvement they can do. And so that's what they're doing. They're keeping the exact core and they're just building around it in a different way, a better way, whatever. It's what Marvel's doing with now expanding into She-Hulk and Werewolf by Night. It just seems like there's kind of an art to this that maybe we weren't really thinking about when we were complaining about Splatoon 3 not being different enough. We're complaining about the speed at which Pokemon iterates and it evolves its formula. Because again, there's a core they wanted to stick to, but they did want to slowly try and draw more people in. Maybe it went too slow, and obviously some of this is subjective, but I had like a month to think about all this, and it kind of like I had a reassessment of a lot of it. And I think that's why even like we're seeing now, Nintendo announced that DNA, the guys that do their mobile games, they're forming a joint company called Nintendo Systems, and the entire purpose of the company is to do value adds for services and subscriptions. And I think, again, it's one of those things where it's like Nintendo's like, all right, we have this core thing. 36 million people subscribe to Switch Online. We have these 800 million people playing our mobile games. How do we enhance that? Not how do we rewrite it, not how do we change it completely, just how do we like build on what worked for those audiences. And that ultimately is when change works. And that the reason I say it like that is because if you look at Twitter, here's how I thread that needle. If you look at Twitter, they haven't done any of that correctly in the time since Elon Musk turned. So, okay, who's keeping up with Twitter? Is anyone keeping up with the chaos?
Only what you've posted? Yeah. Otherwise, I wouldn't even know this was going on.
So here's what's going on in a nutshell. Elon, on a whim, was like, I'm going to buy Twitter for $44 billion. He did no research. He did no data, anything. He just said, I'm going to do it. Twitter's like, oh, that's awesome. Okay. Sure. We are obligated to give our shareholders the most money they can get. This is way higher than our stock value, so we're gonna say yes. Elon very quickly got cold feet because he realized how dumb of an idea it was. And then Twitter's like, no. You already made the promise. You're now affecting our stock value, and we're gonna sue you and make you take over the company because we are obligated not to the users of Twitter but to our shareholders, and they were promised X amount of money and they're not getting it. So they sued him. And right before it went to discovery, like right before this was all going to like start blowing up, and all the little inner workings of Elon's mind and his plan would have come out, he suddenly, for reasons unknown, was like, okay, fine, I'll buy it. So whatever was going to come out in the court case, he didn't want to come out. He just was like, fine, I'll buy the company, whatever. And And then he bought the company. And the last 2 weeks, my friend described it as, it's like the Titanic is sinking, but instead of there being a sad string quartet playing, everyone's having a Coachella on the deck. Like, basically, the company's going down. When he bought them, they were slightly profitable, like $220 million or something, which compared to the billions on Facebook or Google or Apple or whatever, they're a smaller scale tech company for sure. But they were slightly profitable. But as part of his deal to buy them, Elon, saddled more debt on Twitter. Like, he, through buying Twitter, put some of the debt that was needed to buy Twitter on Twitter itself. So suddenly Twitter had like $1 billion in debt that obviously $220 million in revenue cannot cover in a short amount of time. So now they basically cannot get out of this hole that he himself put on them by buying them. And every idea he has is just the exact opposite of what you to do. Like, the idea of understanding understanding how to go about changing because you know what works and you know where to improve and you have an understanding of the core and then you build around the core. Like everything I say about why Splatoon worked, why the Marvel shows work, why Black Adam maybe worked a hair less. Yeah, Elon doesn't have that. He has no fundamental understanding of the platform. So, verification of users. There are 450,000 verified users on Twitter. They are not there as some sort of elitist rank where, you're a blue check, you're special. They're there because they don't want imposters. So if someone says something and they're representing a company or a brand, it's accurate. He's like, no, that's not why. Anyone should be verified because what matters is we should all blue checks because then we're equal, which is, again, not the purpose. So he killed the verification system. And then within minutes, as everyone predicted, ton of imposters that are tanking real company stocks. They're taking down real industries. Like the natural gas market was down 7% off some fake tweets by a fake company. People have been conditioned for 12, 15 years that a check mark means it's from a verified source. A check mark means if Nintendo tweets, hey, we're launching the Switch 2 next week. If it's from that check mark, then wow, they're launching the Switch 2 next week. If it's from something without a check mark called Nintendo of US or whatever, instead of Nintendo of America, then yeah, that's not real. But now we don't have that because anyone can get a check mark that used to mean verification for $8. Elon claims $8 means there are no scammers, no trolls, no bots. Because you have to pay. You have to pay through Apple or you have to pay through Google using your phone. And you can't scam that. You can't make a VPN and get a stolen credit card. You can't open a temporary prepaid gift card, credit card, and just use that. No, those things aren't possible. So, of course, it's completely unraveled. But again, the core misunderstanding was, what is the purpose of verification? Why does it exist? And he completely upended it. So there's that issue. He's also he did huge layoffs and is treating the staff really poorly and making them do things on a whim and then undoing it and then redoing it. Because in the time of verification, they also add a second official tag because they realize you can't have these verifications if they don't mean anything. You need to signal who is an official government, who's an official company. They have rolled that out and back and out and back and out and back, I think 6 times in 72 hours. So there's no solid plan there. He's firing people in mass because he thinks he needs to cut costs because, he did saddle them with an extra $1 billion in debt. So the infrastructure of the thing is starting to fall apart. He what else did he do? He is starting to use private data in some weird ways to the point that the head of their security, safety and security and a few other executives all quit and warned the employees you might need to file whistleblowing complaints with the FTC for violating privacy laws. So there's that. And at every step of the way, when you think, okay, there's got to be an understanding of the platform, there's not. Every step of the way, he somehow makes it worse. Every step of the way, where it's oh, well, we do this for this reason. He's well, no, I'm doing it for this other reason, and just undoes something. It's just, I'm leaving out a bunch of the drama, but basically, he, at astronomical speeds, is tanking what is essentially one of the backbones of the internet. Twitter, well, not the most active platform in terms of raw user count. Think about how many things you read that started with news from a tweet. Or how many sites you go on that have an embedded tweet. It's everywhere. And
am I going to have to follow weeks? Am I going to have to follow Wario64 to Mastodon? What even is Mastodon?
Maybe, and that's the thing. I don't even think Mastodon is going to be the one in the end. It's going to be something else because the thing with Mastodon, as much as I love that instead of tweets they're called toots, So instead of retweeting, you're retweeting, which would be amazing to hear in the news cycle during the next election. It's like, oh, the president retweeted today. But,
the president tooted today, which...
Or the president tooted, he tooted out that job numbers are up, but, or tooted out that the economy's, down or whatever. Tooting. But, yeah, he's just tooting. No, but as amazing as that is, and again, it goes back to not understanding why things work how they work, like someone like Elon does, or even the Mastodon people. The reason Twitter works so well is it's super accessible and super easy. The problem with Mastodon is when you go sign up, you have to pick a server. I don't know what that means. There's 20 different servers. They can recommend you somebody. Pick a server. The servers interlink and talk to one another, but you have to be on a server, and that server has to kind of match your interests. We have to sit there and sort out and figure out your server. And I don't think for mass appeal that's going to work. I do think people are a little more conditioned to understand that if they make a parallel and rebrand them a little, so it's servers in the same way that there are Slack channels or Discord channels. But even then, the problem with Discord and Slack is everything's siloed, right, by design. You can't really have a siloed Twitter. It kind of undercuts. What's interesting is the former guy in charge of Twitter, Jack, he's working on something called Blue Sky, which is what if Twitter was essentially an email, a decentralized email protocol. So think about email where you can use any app you want. And if you type in the right name, it'll go to that person. If they type in the right name, it'll go back to you or whatever. If you could figure out a way to present Twitter-style data as a protocol that could work decentralized like email does, then you can use whatever client you want. You can use Mastodon. You can do whatever. All you're doing is you're going to a place that's signing you up for this short message service, and then it spits everything out to everyone everywhere as long as you follow the things that you want to follow. But unlike email, there's obviously a lot more complications because you have to have profiles, you have to have following buttons, you have to be able to communicate all that. So I don't know what that's even going to look like. But Mastodon seems even one step removed from that because, again, it's all strictly by server. And they kind of overarch and they kind of don't. And if you have to sit down and teach someone how that works, it's never. And I should clarify one quick thing, actually, because I feel like I'm saying the amount of change Marvel did, the amount of change Nintendo did is the only correct amount of change. It's very subjective, obviously. If you look at something like the Indie World. Did you guys watch the Indie World this past week?
Negative.
The presentation?
Nope. Didn't even know.
Well, you didn't miss a whole lot. One of the complaints that a lot of people had were there weren't very many big name games. They announced Sports Story comes out next month, finally, after years, which is cool. But in terms of big indie names you recognize, there wasn't a lot of that. And a decent number of people online are kind of bummed about that. I was sitting there really enjoying that they changed up the type of games they showed. It wasn't a ton of roguelikes. It wasn't stuff you'd expect. There's a game about planting, a game where you just maintain flowers called Botany Manor. There was this cooking game that's kind of Cooking Mama, but also about sharing cultures, an Indian cooking game called, I think, Venba. There was a game where you have to put on improv shows called Once Upon a Jester, a game where you are organizing household objects, but then there's a cat who randomly just disrupts what you're doing called A Little to the Left. There's all these games that were kind of more unique, kind of more out there, definitely more indie games that only indies would make, you know what I mean? But what was nice, I thought, was it was nice to see that change, right? It was nice to see that it wasn't just focused on the things that guaranteed to work. It's what are the cool things about indie games? They're different, they're unique, they are doing things no other game does, and Nintendo kind of pointed a lens on that in this presentation. But again, to the point that change can be subjective, I thought that was very cool. I really liked how they did that change. A lot of people are there isn't anything, there's no meat on the bone here. So everything I'm saying about change is even to some degree with Twitter, I feel everything I'm saying about change is very subjective of what you think is the right amount of change or wrong amount of change. I know a lot of people find the fourth phase of the MCU to be probably the weakest. I would say movie-wise, and you're probably right. But what's nice is or what I've come to realize over this past month or seen, because I've had way too much time to dwell on this and no one to talk to, is there is definitely an art to doing change in a way that won't hurt you and to doing change in a way that will further help you. And some get it, and Elon Musk definitely does not. But yeah, it's just been interesting. Everything I've done this past month has been through this lens of well, what are they doing differently? How's this different than what I'm used to seeing the month prior or whatever? Which maybe is also some sort of indictment about our culture as a whole of how everything's just remixes of things and reinventions of existing things and sequels to things and nothing's like truly new. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting month of content consumption and Twitter destruction. I'll say that. So that's my whole what I've been up to and spiel about. I think you asked Kevin to talk about Splatoon 3. Well, there you go. That's what I wanted to say.
There's a lot to say about Splatoon 3.
I know, and yet barely anything about actually Splatoon 3.
Man, I must feel bad that I had zero to say about anything Nintendo related.
It was a slow month. Of all times for us to not do the podcast, it was a slow news cycle.
Became world champion. I thought that was neat.
Yep, he finally became champion.
And that's an interesting one. I'll say it super brief, but that's an interesting one because there is a big change for the cartoon, and I don't know where they go from there. So, like, what comes next?
Just give us a new protagonist, honestly. Just doesn't.
Yeah, but see, that's too big of a change. So they're going to have to do something, and that it almost goes back to the like what I said about like, this whole art of change to keep it afloat. Yeah, that might be it. Or maybe
they're
going
to be an exit to continue it. The youngins don't really care
maybe
as
it's
much
like
about Ash as we did.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Maybe he's not trying the world. Maybe he becomes like a gym leader or Elite Four guy, and it's like about his. Maybe he starts running a school. Animes love putting people in schools. It becomes Hogwarts for Pokemon.
Have you guys seen the final battle?
I have not. Oh my god! I just realized, guys, they're doing the school thing. I was joking when I said make it Hogwarts. They're doing the school thing. The next game, Scarlet and Violet, are set in schools with students. Ash is about to become a professor. I kid you not. That's going to be it. Give it 6 to 9 months.
He's like 11 years old.
They established in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire that multiple dimensions exist, and now he wants to be the multidimensional champion. He has to be the best.
Actually, in terms of the art of change thing I was talking about, that does make more sense because it keeps them closer to the formula they know works. So maybe, yeah.
But, I did catch like a clip of like the ending moments of the fight, and it's it was surprisingly similar to how he won the last one, where it's like, oh, their Pokemon lost. Oh wait, they didn't, and then they won.
There's only so many ways to
the animation
skin that cat, so to speak. Like
amazing,
But that being said, it was a really cool moment.
Who animates Pokemon?
You know what?
Who does animate Pokemon?
Cat logo with musketeer hat sometimes.
No, that's
right.
That's Toei, which
I have no idea.
I think is
I'm googling it, guys.
Their distributor.
They definitely changed, unless they just changed the style but kept the same studio. But yeah, I mean,
OLM Digital.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure
what is
Pokemon.
OLM.
Gotcha. Interesting. I've never heard of OLM.
Me neither. I think maybe they only do Pokemon. I mean, I would certainly keep.
They definitely just don't do Pokemon. I'm looking at their list right now.
Makes sense. They have more than enough on their plate.
Oh, that's funny. Their name is a riff on Industrial Light and Magic, which is ILM.
Oh, they did Odd Taxi. Oh, okay. Odd Taxi's a.
They also did Yokai Watch. That's funny because Yokai Watch was being positioned by Nintendo as the next Pokemon.
Looks like they've done. I don't know why I'm so surprised that they've done every single Pokemon movie, but
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they are the Pokemon house.
Huh.
Yeah.
I thought they were
also
production teams by now, but that's nice to hear.
I mean, they change art styles.
Yeah.
And Nintendo has Nintendo Pictures, so who knows what'll happen in the future. But I imagine OLM's pretty locked in. It's like their breadwinner.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Speaking of anime,
yes,
this is a project. Now it was weeks in the making. Now it's months in the making. Because of since we haven't recorded in forever, but basically about 2 months ago at this point, maybe about a month and a half ago at this point, I asked these guys to partake in something that I thought would be really fun for all three of us. And if you don't like anime, this is where you tune out. You can find us on
not
Stitcher,
necessarily.
Spotify,
You don't need to tune out.
Google Podcast.
No, because you got a non-anime person partaking in this, so maybe I can.
That's true,
relate
and I don't know
people.
anyone that hates anime more than you, so that's kind of.
I don't hate anime. So here's the thing: I need to put a disclaimer. I don't hate anime. It's just I just don't watch any non-comedy animated TV shows in general. I've noticed. So anime just falls under that. And it's weird. It makes no sense because, like, it's not kind of like, oh, it's kiddie because, like, Nintendo is my biggest thing I'm passionate about. So it can't be a kiddie issue by any means. But, yeah. What?
Because you watch Harley Quinn.
I do. Or I watched season 1 and 2 at least. I forgot season 3 even came out. But yes, so I do / did. But that also is somewhat comedic, right? It's part comedy. So it's something I don't watch, like, serious things that are animated, which makes no sense. But I figured out it's not an anime thing. It's an animated thing.
It's just a Japan thing. So. I get you. The xenophobia.
No, it's not even Japan. Nintendo. My biggest passion is from Japan and it's kid-friendly. I go to Anime Expo to hang out with my friends and see the Nintendo things and randomly meet Mike Shinoda from Linkin Park.
Anime,
That's
you try to like hold it back. You're like, oh man, well, why do you guys have to come here every year?
No.
Like, can you guys go to a different convention in the summer, like SpongeBob
like
Con or something? Make it more American.
It is funny that Anime Expo is always on July 4th
for Anime Expo, which is like that's the worst demographic to have sweating.
This is true. Same with E3. It's like 3 weeks prior. Also super hot. Also,
not a very
that demo.
Yeah.
But yes, anyways, the project.
This project. Basically, this anime season is pretty stacked. And so what I wanted to do is have these guys watch the first episode of 6 series from this fall anime season. It's 3 returning series and 3 brand new series. And I had them watch the first episode. I also did this. I also watched the first episode of these 6 series, and then I gave them little prompts, like which one are you most excited to see, and then which one was your favorite, and which one would you continue to watch. And then because I love anime openings, we're also going to rank the anime openings from least favorite to favorite. But these are the 6 anime in question. Oh, and of course, Angel is a big anime fan. I'm a huge anime fan. Jason isn't an anime fan, which is why I really want to do this. This project, I didn't tell them, but pretty much lived and died on whether Jason wanted to do it. Because
I'm honored and also scared that I will not live up to your expectations of what I'm going to say.
You, like you just said, you just don't watch anime. So I was very interested to hear your thoughts on this stuff, especially considering that some of this stuff, like, we'll talk about it. Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War. You have no context for anything that's going on, and this is a show that was on the air 10 years ago.
You know what's frustrating about that one? They set it up as if they were gonna help me understand as a new viewer. Like, they seem to be setting up a story of, like, the eyes through a newbie who, like, meets the team, and I was like,
no,
cool.
You must,
and then the second,
you must be well-versed in Bleach to understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's the thing. The second the main characters are in, that guy just falls to the wayside, and it's never, I'm like, oh, cool, they're actually, like, putting it through a way I can understand. He's gone instantly. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like they like put like a carrot at the end of the stick and then just like yanked it away at the last second. But
So the 6 anime in question: Bleach, 1,000-Year Blood War, Blue Lock, Chainsaw Man, Mob Psycho 103, Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, which we can shorten to G-Witch, and My Hero Academia Season 6. So the returning ones are Bleach, Mob Psycho, and My Hero, while the new ones are Blue Lock, Chainsaw Man, and although it's from the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise, The Witch from Mercury is its own standalone thing, which, as somebody who tried to get into Gundam not too long ago, their timelines are very confusing. But anyways, gonna give the description that I got. Man, these descriptions are all over the place. But I just tried to, especially for Jason's sake, which one are you most excited to see? Based on probably just the name, I probably don't think that you have one that you were like, oh, this one sounds interesting. I'm sure you do.
So that's correct to a degree. I think I leaned on what I hear you guys talk about. So I know that like Mob Psycho was a big thing. I know that like Chainsaw Man was a big thing in your guys' mind. So I was like, okay, Gundam's a classic. Bleach I've heard of. My Hero Academia, I think I randomly watched one of the movies with you guys once or something.
I think we saw it.
And Blue Lock was the odd man out. But yeah, definitely going in, I think Mob Psycho 100 and Chainsaw Man were the two that I'm like, okay, those have some clout. Let's see what those are about. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And funny enough, when I came out, I had a totally different perspective.
Yeah, so brief description for 1,000-Year Blood War. This from Hulu. When a new enemy appears, substitute Soul Reaper Ichiko Kurosaki jumps back into the battlefield with his Zanpakuto to help those in need. Terrible, terrible description from Hulu. Just absolute...
Says nothing.
Says nothing. Hero will step in to fight. Blue Lock, and this is where they get long. Japan's desire for World Cup glory leads the Japanese Football Association to launch a new rigorous training program to find the national team's next striker. 300 high school players are pitted against each other for the position, but only one will come out on top. Who among them will be the striker to usher in a new era of Japanese soccer?
That undersells it. I mean, it's very accurate, but it kind of undersells the extremes. Yes, exactly.
We'll get to it. Chainsaw Man. Denji is a young boy who works as devil hunter with the chainsaw devil Pochita. One day, as he was living his miserable life trying to pay off the debt he inherited from his parents, he got betrayed and killed. As he was losing consciousness, he made a deal with Pochita and got resurrected as the Chainsaw Man, the owner of the Devil's Heart. Also a terrible description. This is the first time that I'm reading that one. That one's just horrible. Okay.
Seems accurate, though? Also,
it does,
but it says not. It doesn't really.
Oh, spoilers for all of these, by the way.
Well, spoilers of the first episode of each, I guess.
Yeah. All right, Mob Psycho.
Yeah,
Mob Psycho was.
Go. Oh, actually, wait. Oh no, I was just gonna say that. Due to my schedule, I literally did not have time to watch any of these until moments before this, so they're still kind of sinking in. But,
Perfect.
Yeah, that's about it.
This is Mob Psycho 100th. This one is tricky because this is the description for the show, not necessarily for this third season. Yeah. So this is from Crunchyroll. Kageyama Shigeo, aka Mob, is a boy who has trouble expressing himself, but who happens to be a powerful esper. Mob is determined to live a normal life and keeps his ESP suppressed, but when his emotions surge to a level of 100%, something terrible happens to him. As he's surrounded by false espers, evil spirits, and mysterious organizations, what will Mob think? Not completely accurate, but I'll take it, I guess. This is Gundam from Crunchyroll. An era when a multitude of corporations have entered space and built a huge economic system, a lone girl from the remote planet Mercury transfers to the... I'm not even going to try this. The Astakasia School of Technology, run by the Barrett Group, which dominates the mobile suit industry. Her name is Suletta Mercury. With a scarlet light burning in her pure heart, this girl walks step by step through a new world.
That got poetic at the end.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, same thing with My Hero. This is a description of My Hero, not necessarily Season 6. Despite being born powerless in the superpowered world, Izuku refuses to give up on his dream of becoming a hero. He enrolls himself in the prestigious Hero Academy with a deadly entrance exam. To make the grade, he'll have to put in some serious study time with the mightiest hero of all. Which, yeah, this description is not great for this season. Especially not great for this season. This was Season 1's description.
You barely get Midoriya in this episode at all.
That's a good point. Oh man, My Hero wasn't the best.
We'll wait till we get to the show,
right.
but
So
I
those are
equate it
6
to
anime.
watching Endgame without watching any of the Marvel shows if you just jumped into this episode.
Yeah, that's a good point, especially My Hero Season 6. Yeah, you're basically watching Infinity War with My Hero Season 6.
You get the spectacle, but you're like, who are you?
100%. It was the least welcoming for newcomers because I was saying there like, who's this? Like, there's a dude who's a washing machine, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, I want to meet this guy, and I had no idea what that was, and they kept showing him. There were like 55 people, and like half of them, I'm like, who's that guy? Who's this black and white Deadpool looking guy? Like, the whole thing gave me a very like kind of X-Men Academy vibe, but I was really like, I want to know who all these people are, and I have zero context, which made it hard to like. It made it interesting, but also kind of hard to get into. Like, I wanted to learn more, but I didn't want to commit to learning 50 people's names, you know?
Yeah. So based on this stuff, first prompt, which is which one were you the most excited to see? I guess we'll start with Angel for this one.
Based on the prompt solely?
No, based on just whatever you knew about the show.
Oh, easily Chainsaw Man because of someone here. I mean, I didn't know about...
Yeah, me, obviously.
Yeah. Like, Blue Lock, the premise sounds interesting. Gundam, I mean, yeah, none of them sounded bad per se, but like Chainsaw Man, even not just you, but also a bunch of coworkers, it just had the most hype going into it.
No, I think he just trailed off dramatically.
Angel?
Maybe we did lose Angel.
Oh, boy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my recording is still going, but you can't hear me. Wait, can you hear me? Hello?
There he is.
Yes.
Wow,
the question is, do we rewind and redo that part, or do we just let everyone hear the crazy?
Now we can hear you. I'm sure on your end we'll still hear it. It's fine.
No, yeah, like there was no pause on my end. It just kept going. Thankfully, you guys weren't talking over me.
Fix
so
it in post, Kevin.
But yeah, I think it still works. But long story short, I guess since you didn't hear me, actually, should I even repeat it? Didn't everyone else heard me? Whatever. We're doing it live. Yeah, because of you and a lot of coworkers, Chainsaw Man was very hyped up. So that was definitely the one I was anticipating the most. Blue Lock, probably the next one, just because I like how anime just does like, what if soccer but an anime, or what if baking but an anime, what if cooking but an anime. But this one is like, just to make it serious as heck. But I don't know. Yeah, Chainsaw Man would probably say that was the one I was most eager to watch.
Nice.
For better or worse.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was saying earlier too. I think I got ahead of your question earlier, but I think because of hearing it hyped up from you primarily, like Chainsaw Man and like Mob Psycho were the two that I was like, okay, let's see what these are about, because there was a lot of high praise coming into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, without a question, Chainsaw Man was the thing that I was most excited about, followed by Mob Psycho. My Hero Academia. I've read the manga for My Hero Academia season 6, so I was excited for this season, especially if you're all caught up. This season's got pretty intense. Mobile Suit Gundam sounded interesting to me because this is the first Gundam show with a female protagonist. Bleach, I thought could go either 50-50, and then Blue Lock. I hate sports anime and I hate soccer, so Blue Lock was at the bottom.
Well, that's a glowing endorsement for that show.
Okay.
Oh yeah, disclaimer. Yeah, I guess I did have to say Mob would probably take all of these, so it's like I'm just ignoring Mob for these rankings for the most part, because then I'd just be saying the same thing.
It would just be Mob, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we all watched the first episodes. Which one was your favorite, Jason?
Well, how do I have to rank this? In the sense of, because I could tell.
To go first, so
all right, overall, I'll jump to the overall. No, because what I was gonna say is like, overall, I think I'll just say overall. I actually think it might have been Blue Lock, the soccer anime that you guys are just. I don't know. It was like the problem with this is because I have no reference points in anime. I started making reference points to things I have watched, which is like non-anime. So there's a lot of things that jumped at me. It's like, oh, this reminds me of that.
And I bet I know what you're going to talk about. What's your reference for Blue Lock?
Yeah, because I just say like Gundam, for example, like watching it, just like, man, this reminds me a lot of when I used to play Custom Robo, like the little robot fights. Like, I want to do that. That'd be fun. But Blue Lock clicked with me because it was like, as I think everyone knows, it's basically Squid Game.
It's soccer
like Squid Game is Squid Game mixed with kind of an inverse Ted Lasso, because in Ted Lasso, Ted is like the absurdity surrounded by a lot of seriousness, and then here you got this very serious soccer player who just wants to do his best, and everyone around him is way more lighthearted, like, this isn't that big of a deal, this is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? And yet they're all going through the Squid Game together. So yeah, I think it's very Squid Game, and like everything from like the outfits they need to wear to like the special challenges to even like I noticed like the walls and the rooms where they do the challenges, like the designs on the walls are very similar, even that similar. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that one just maybe because it resonated with things I've watched and enjoyed before. That one just kind of moved right up the rankings, and it also had kind of a cool, like the art style kind of gave me like a cool, almost like more colorful version of like Hotel Dusk on the DS, if you guys remember that game. Like when they were showing like the people, like the shots of people's heads and stuff, it felt like a colored in Hotel Dusk. So I think it had a lot going for me.
Yeah.
In terms of touchstones from things I have liked in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. As someone, as like I said, I hate sports anime. and I hate soccer. Blue Lock out of these first episodes was absolutely my favorite as well. I wasn't ready to get Soccer Squid Game, but we got it, and the animation also turns out to be pretty sick as well. What about you, Angel?
I like Mob. That was just my favorite.
What was the first episode? I forgot what the first episode was.
Not much happens in the first episode. It's like the big thing they solve is just the shut-in that is just depressed, and then they kind of like
that's right.
demon. But I mean, it's a very biased take just because, like I said, that like is 100% like my most anticipated one. It was a show that I just really love, and it just felt like comfort food. Like I just liked, especially, and this is something obviously that Jason wouldn't have gotten because we just came out of the second season, the way it ended. So this is kind of like the nice calm before the storm. So you almost want, not much to happen as things like start to build up. Like, oh, what is Dimple up to? Like, we didn't really see a lot of him, or he's like kind of insinuating some things, or like,
what is Dimple?
Or Shigeru is like, he's really going forward with like wanting to go in his own direction, and Reagan still being kind of supportive, kind of still like sleazy. He's still fun. It was just comfort food. Like I just felt happy and at home while just watching it. But so that's kind of like the gimme. But like to kind of ignore that one, I would also go with Blue Lock because that just came out of nowhere. I just love how serious they take it. How like I also really loved how they position like right in the episode starts with him losing a game to these other person that's like, oh, getting all the glory, best player in the blah blah blah, and then he's the one that ends up eliminating him, and like kind of like a twisty like, no, I can't just like eliminate a weak person. If I want to be the best, I have to eliminate the best, which is really how fighting game getting good at anything works. Like you got to play against people that are better than you, and it's gonna suck. You're gonna lose a lot of times, but it's how you improve.
That's probably the best. It turns the genre kind of on its head. Because sports anime are usually about, hey, you guys have to work together as a team to overcome the odds. While in this show, it's like, no, you have to look out for yourself. And you have to eliminate anybody that stands in your way.
Like the guy with the biggest ego was going to win. It's like they can
exactly.
Yeah.
Which it's like, you have no time for friends. It's all about yourself. Which is why I hate sports. Sports anime always end up being like, hey, work as a team, and you guys will achieve greatness. Here, it's like, nope, you can only achieve greatness within yourself, and that's pretty much it.
I will say, on paper, Mob Psycho should have been my favorite. Mm-hmm. I feel like the visuals are super fun. Like it felt like kind of a manga come to life. Like there are like some fourth wall things. There's some meta stuff. Like there's like this randomness to it. Like at one point, there's like a shot of like space with a UFO, and I was like, oh, okay. But there's like this random element to it that's kind of fun. And then there's like also, I just gotta say it, there was a DS, there was a Game Boy, there was a Switch, all in one episode. The beginning of the episode with the cursed like gyroid from Animal Crossing looking thing, which I realized the gyroids are a Japanese cultural reference themselves. But like everything about it, the meta, the kind of Nintendo nods, the randomness, the cool art stuff, that on paper, that list should be the thing that makes me go, this is my favorite, hands down. But yeah, just I don't know, like something with Blue Lock. Just probably to your point.
So what is the rest of your ranking? I mean, that's just your number one.
Yeah, let's.
Are we just gonna go through our number twos and so on, or we're just gonna let Jason finish?
I think we have our number ones. We could just go in alphabetical order, or I guess we could just go by Jason's ranking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So then, with that in mind, I feel like I gotta have myself. Yeah, Blue Lock's number one, but I think Mob is number two for the reasons I just mentioned. Like the meta stuff. Yeah, there's just a lot. There's a lot there. That's like if this didn't have Blue Lock overshadowing it, like this would be. It has all the elements of stuff I like.
Didn't feel too lost. It being the third season.
It was a little lost. I was a little lost. I appreciated that it did start with a bit of an explainer, kind of. And it did have a pretty cool, trippy intro song. But yeah, I was a little lost, but it did end in a way that set up the season in a way I could understand. Like, oh, he's going off into the world now. Like, he's leaving his mentor behind, whatever. Like, I could follow that. I don't understand. I asked you this when you were talking before, but you probably didn't hear me. I don't understand what Dimple is.
Oh.
Or who Dimple... Like, I know...
Dimple,
like what is that?
Dimple is a spirit that I think he fights in the 3rd episode of the show. Yeah. And he kept him around because he's so weak, and also because he just doesn't want to exercise him. So they've grown to become like friends, basically.
Yeah, Mob is very much like see the good in people, and it was kind of like a nice little twist where, like Kevin said, he was like the villain of the 3rd episode, but he pitied him and just kept him alive, and he just kind of hung around to become like a sidekick of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, so I put Mob at number 2. I think number 3, and if we want to pause and talk about that one, next on my list would be Chainsaw Man, I think. I thought it had some really interesting presentation choices, like the first-person parts, the kind of style of the visuals. Like, they had these really cool, like, very stylistic. Like, there's one shot I remember where it's like, it was like a cityscape, but it was like upside down. Like, the road was upside down. Like, yeah, like there's a lot. It looked cool. Like, it just had a very unique look. Again, I'm confused by the sidekick because I don't know what's up with his little pet devil with a chainsaw coming out of his head, but that's, something I presume either you learn before the episode, or I guess if it's new entirely, you would learn it as the show goes on. But yeah, it definitely, like, it stood out because it was visually really interesting. It's definitely the darkest of all the shows we watched.
Absolutely.
So that it was a little slower paced, a little more gory. It kind of felt like the equivalent of like prestige television to normal television, if that makes sense. Like, it was like the prestige anime show. Yeah, exactly. Like the thing I thought of after watching it, because I've also been watching Andor, the Star Wars show, is like, if these other animes are like Obi-Wan or like Book of Boba Fett or something, like kind of like light, like, hey, look at this kind of fun thing we're doing in this world. Like, this Chainsaw Man is the Andor. It's like, yeah, the HBO prestige, the kind of like slower, probably more thematic in terms of like the plot points it hits and stuff. Like, it's, yeah. And it's an intriguing setup. But it's definitely a slower burn than the others. Like, not a ton happens. So,
until it does,
we'll see. I'm sure stuff will happen, but it's just like slower. Yeah, until the end. Yeah. One weird thing that happened though, and I only want to point out because it's funny. So halfway through the episode, I guess it was Crunchyroll, whatever I was watching it on, glitched, and everyone's voices turned into Animal Crossing characters for a little while, and I had to like close the browser and restart. But it was like, I was like, instead of like, it was really like they went high pitch and kind of double speed. I don't know why that happened, but it definitely killed the vibe a little. But no, I'd say that was 3rd for me. I mean, you must have come in with a lot of expectation, Kevin, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Chainsaw Man has been my favorite property ever since I finished the manga last year. And so obviously coming into this, I was incredibly hyped, and they didn't disappoint. That episode pretty much 1-for-1 recreates the first chapter of the manga, which they're not all that long. It just happened to be that introductory chapter. I was super satisfied with how they like faithfully recreated everything, and man, the animation, Studio Mappa,
just production values were
insane.
Like,
it's noticeable, yeah.
Yeah, even like compared to the other anime, like Mob definitely has its more simplistic look going for it, but it definitely helps with the animation side. But
yeah, it works in its favor.
Yeah, this one didn't seem to kind of let its more detailed characters like let it get in a way. Just like, yeah, you could tell this was like an expensive show to make, and there was obviously some obvious CG there. There were some buildings that looked a little weird when they were doing that driving scene at night. But overall, it's like, this could have been like almost like an anime movie. Like, it's almost reaching that quality. But yeah, and that's something that I hope you picked. I mean, I'm sure you've always noticed as Jason in general that anime in general tends to be way like just the drawings, just the images and the visuals. They tend to be way more detailed and just more involved than almost any American show I could think of.
Oh, absolutely. But because I was watching these at the same time I was watching Bob's Burgers, and it's night and day the amount of like Bob's Burgers is so simple in animation.
Yeah, but
something like Chainsaw Man was so intricate. It's immediate. That's the thing,
but
for sure.
But you get the trade-off of more limited animation. Like when they're not in the middle of an action scene, characters will move as little as possible. Where in Bob's Burgers, they bounce, they dance, they have follow-through. So like the animation, there is more animation basically. But it's a trade-off. It's literally what.
Yeah, that
Japan and America like flip flopped on.
I was just gonna say that
It's like Adventure Time.
that
versus
static shot
Blue
thing you're
Lock.
pointing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, My Hero Academia is where I noticed that most, especially when they were showing like the 55 different like Washing Machine Man and stuff. Like there were so many static shots, like just like here's a hero, here's another, here's another, here's another, here's another. Yeah, it was, and they were all completely static. Yeah, it immediately jumped out at me.
Yeah, but when they have the action, because that's what they're saving their budget for, and it's like whoa, it's like things are moving, things are exploding. It's like crazy, but yeah, and that I know it's not always people's cup of tea, but yeah, I guess has that ever been like a deterrent for you, or is?
I mean, it wasn't in the Pokemon days.
That's true.
So I don't think that would hold me up. It was
noticeable,
like,
and people definitely notice, like, yeah, only their mouths are moving, but
yeah.
Cool.
But it's fine. Cool. Yeah, it's not a big deterrent.
But yeah.
And so after that,
cool.
Chainsaw Man is on its fifth episode, and all I'll say is that episode 3 and episode 4 have pretty awesome fight scenes.
Oh, that was my 4th, by the way. But yeah,
that was your 4th?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That was my 2nd. Mob Psycho was my 3rd. Blue Lock being number 1. Yeah. All right.
I think once I get through this list and we talk about them all, you guys just from top to bottom say your list because it's gonna get very muddied.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be like, it's my 4th, my 2nd, my 8th.
I think we'll just save. Yeah. We'll use your list as a discussion of each show,
conversation starters. Yeah. I'm the icebreaker for each show, and then you guys can rank yours at the end or something.
So what's next?
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I'm going to throw a curveball because I'm looking at my rankings, and Bleach and Gundam are about equal to me.
Okay.
Let me explain why. I think because it's interesting because both to me were a little like tropey anime in concept, but one I thought excelled visually, and one I thought excelled with its music and randomly sound design. Like I thought Gundam had a lot of cool music and did some cool stuff with the robot. Like it sounds so big with the robot noise, but like audio of Gundam was really cool. The visual of Bleach was really cool. Like some shots are almost like photorealistic, and they had those really slick
title
reveals of characters. Yeah, in almost like a Persona type of way, and like the intro too has kind of that Persona vibe. But like the story itself seems pretty prototypical. I don't want to say tropey, but kind of tropey anime.
No, it absolutely is. And I'll explain.
Yeah.
I'll explain a little bit, but keep going.
Yeah, so that's why Bleach is that on the visual side, and then Gundam, like I said, the audio is really good. But then on the story side, it also was a little. I mean, it had kind of a whole like fish out of water in this world you know so well thing, which a million things have done anime and not. There was that weird marriage subplot, which was kind of a curveball out of nowhere, but for the most part, it was very like tropey as well, just in a different direction. So that's why I put them probably about equal in my mind.
Okay, for sure. What about you, Angel?
Yeah, they were. Well, I guess they're both at the bottom of my list. Not because they were bad in any way, but something had to be on the bottom. I did not know I had to skip episode 0. So when I watched that, I was like,
the Witch from Mercury prologue makes episode 1 really confusing to the point where I watched the first episode of G-Witch and I just was like, wait, did I miss something in the prologue? And I went to go watch the prologue again, and it confused me even further. Yeah,
because there's literally nothing in the prologue that is
sort of relevant to the first episode.
Yeah, like I'm sure. I guess you see like a much older version of someone that appeared there, but it didn't really matter. Like it might be something that plays into like many episodes later. But since I saw that prologue, I was like, since I was judging it based on that initially, I really liked that prologue. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, the prologue, the prologue is very, very cool.
And in a way, I guess like jumping to the future, since I saw it in that order. When I got to that first episode, I was like, oh, cool. So I guess because you see her as a 4-year-old, like, they get raided. It was kind of a sad prologue. It's like, damn, like they didn't pull any punches from the beginning. Like production values were great. But then, it just kind of gets into what it almost feels like a slice of life with robots.
Slice of life, yeah.
And, which there's nothing wrong, but it wasn't like, it didn't present you like the high stakes. I don't know. It wasn't as intriguing as it was in the prologue. It's just a different show.
Yeah.
Which, it could still turn into that. But, it was fine. Like, I don't know if I'll continue watching it, but I enjoyed my time with it. I thought the main character was fun. I've seen a couple shows with like overly shy characters, but this is probably the most shy character I've ever seen in the show. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But which will make their character growth that much more interesting when they do eventually get out of that. And Bleach, yeah, I don't know if I watched the first couple seasons of Bleach many years ago, but I don't know if it really helped that much. I guess it kind of did. Sort of. All it really did was like, oh, I recognize that guy. I recognize that girl. I kind of recognize this captain. Wait, why do they carry that hollow arm missing really fast? I thought they were the bad guys. And then, just hearing like some key terms like Zanpakuto, like I remember that, but I don't remember what that is. And then they did it, like, oh, that's what that was. Or him saying Bankai.
Yeah.
But it was cool. The action, I don't remember if it was always this cool looking, but it was.
It absolutely
cool.
was not. Yeah. If you try to rewatch Bleach, okay, well, Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War, it's a returning show, but it's in this interesting spot where the show actually got canceled 10 years ago. Mainly because if you watch the original Bleach like anime series, I think about 45% of it is filler. And that killed a lot of interest for a lot of viewers. So the show got canceled right when the manga was starting its final arc, which is this 1,000-Year Blood War. So this is adapting that final arc that never got adapted back in 2012, I think, is when it got canceled, or 2013, one of those 2 years.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's been 10 years since the anime series ended. And the production value from not only has production value in anime changed since then, but they absolutely went above and beyond, because this looks nothing like the Bleach from 2012. The animation is much more is much nicer. It's so much more nicer. The character models have like this nice shade on them that they didn't have back then.
Yeah, everything definitely looks flatter.
Yeah.
Did the hollows always look like predator heads slapped on massive spiders, or did they give those a bit of a design overhaul too?
The hollows looked very, very generic back in the day. Like, okay, I think the first hollow that you see is like just this black pillar with a mask on, and now they look like animals.
Oh, yeah, I know those.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that's what they were from. Okay,
yeah. So those were the hollows, and yeah, Bleach they really stepped up their game. Gundam is in this weird spot because Gundam has always been a show about war is bad, capitalism bad, and with this series it looks like, oh, you're following girls in school. So I'm sure at some point it will evolve into that. But yeah, I guess that the prologue definitely reflects upon Gundam's general themes of like war and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it definitely seems more like a slice of life. And the reason that this is, just like you said, Jason, it feels tropey in a way, but it's actually not as tropey for Gundam because there's never been a Gundam that's been sent to school, or with female protagonists for that matter.
Which makes it ironic that it was so tropey to me because I'm coming in with so little experience in the franchise.
Yeah, so
I'm just looking at like this is just
Gundam
generic,
itself,
and it's actually
not very tropey, but just in the general grand
right.
scheme of anime, yeah, pretty tropey.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think with that, it just leaves one anime, which is My Hero Academia.
Correct. Which isn't necessarily a knock against it. It's just, it's the one that you come in. We kind of talked about this already, but it's the one that there's like, you have the least idea what's going on if you don't know what's going on. It certainly was the most one-to-one with some Western content I watched, because like I said earlier, it kind of reminded me of like X-Men, like they're all at the academy together, you know, they're all in this like thing together. Maybe it's not an academy, but it has kind of that vibe. And there is some cool stuff in there. Like I thought I don't know what those black and white Deadpool looking guys are, but there's some cool shots where they're like doing, like there's like a camera sweeping through them at one point, and that was kind of neat. But for the most part, it's like a lot of not knowing what's going on, a relatively anime, like generic anime look to it. So it just like didn't resonate with me because I was a little lost and it didn't have any other like sensory things to sort of catch my attention with. Yeah.
Angel?
Yeah, this one was my third, but it's basically for the opposite reason that Jason described. And it's funny because as I was watching the show, I totally kept thinking like, oh my god, like they keep like jumping to different characters that we've had many seasons just to like get the backstories, like the significance of why they even showed the family of, I'll just call him the fire dude for Jason's reference, the guy with the fiery hair. He was, even though he was like very
the rejected Mega Man enemy. Yes, Fireman.
Yeah, because he's like the number one hero right now. They barely showed the main character, but like this episode was essentially, or at least it felt like, they're just starting the beginnings of what feels like this next big fight that was like that a lot of things were leading up to. So I feel like it was like watching Endgame without any of the Marvel movies.
100%.
It absolutely
halfway through it
war of my hero.
Halfway through it, I 100% had the thought of, man, this must be what Angel feels like whenever we drag into a Marvel thing. Because like it's so, there's so much just not known. There's so many little pieces not known. Yeah.
But yeah, like, and even like the sequence with the Deadpool guy and the guy with the wings. Like I'm sure maybe you caught that he's like supposed to be like a double agent. He's actually a good guy pretending to be a bad guy, or maybe that was not made clear.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't remember if I caught that. I don't know if I caught that.
but yeah, like, but that's something that's been like ongoing for a while now. He's just been working his way through the organization, and I thought like, I didn't even think they were gonna get to like any fighting, but then the end was just kind of like anything that can go wrong is going crazy. But like, oh wait, they like they reversed Uno'd each other. Like, oh, you thought you got Dr. Eggman? Oh well, we actually have someone already on their way to the real Dr. Eggman and whatnot. But it was cool. It was like a nice reminder of like, oh man, I remember where we left off now. I can't wait to watch more. I can't wait to see where the defense or the backup units are gonna be doing, or who's gonna die. Because I feel like someone has to die in this battle. But
speaking of,
I'm sure
not reverse Uno, but speaking of,
yeah, I already know what happens at the end of this arc, and
it's
absolutely the darkest that my hero has ever gotten. So I'll just say that. Yep.
I just say, speaking of like endings that kind of swerve where you don't expect, what was going on in Bleach? You're like, we're taking away his power. Oh, just kidding. No, we're not. It's too powerful.
That's because that's how based Ichigo is.
All right, fair. I just like, the whole arc is gonna be he loses powers to get it back, like Samus in Metroid or something, and then they're like, nah, he still has it.
Yeah, no, like I don't know how much I'm guessing some of it applies here, but like they've made a mention to like a substitute Reaper, because that's what Ichigo is, and I don't know if you're familiar with the premise at all. If William ever mentioned it, which was an old roommate of ours that was really into the show. Basically, Ichigo was your average high schooler when Soul Reaper was fighting a hollow by his house in that town, but then that Soul Reaper gets like really injured, and they have no choice but to like, hey, Mr. Ichigo, high school kid, you for some reason are able to see these hollow. That's not normal. Maybe you can help me. So he becomes.
I see. Okay.
So he becomes like a substitute Reaper, and adventures later turns out legal trouble. There's like a whole case, and I guess.
Wait, did you say legal trouble? I would not have guessed legal trouble was going to be the thing that stopped the guy that's fighting the souls.
I'm sure there was this whole thing where like the Rukia, the Reaper that gave him the power to be a substitute Reaper, I guess, was put on trial for something. I think they were going to execute her, but long story short, Ichigo keeps like leveling up, discovering new powers, like your Dragon Ball status, where they just keep finding new ways to like go beyond the limit. It's like, oh man. Or friendship and all that, and those people that appeared alongside him, like they were just his high school buddies. But I want to say it was because he was just like emanating this aura of power that they all gained superpowers. Like the dude with the arms just gained powerful arms. That woman there just gained the power of healing and shields or something. And I don't know who that dude with the glasses was with the gun.
He's a Quincy.
A what?
He's a Quincy.
Does that mean something?
Archer?
I guess he made an Archer friend at some point.
Yeah, the guy with glasses.
Wait, was he always there?
Yeah, he's always been a Quincy. Yeah, he's always been. Yeah.
I guess I just forgot about him. Yeah, I recognize the.
Welcome to my
the
world,
other two.
Angel, where you know nothing.
No, yeah, or you
go in knowing nothing.
Yeah, or you used to hate Ichigo, and then don't you remember he challenged Ichigo to see who can kill the most hollows. So like he summoned like 100 of them.
It's barely ringing a bell. I was just really hoping I'd catch a glimpse of the cockatiel with the. There's like a little cockatiel in a cage at some point, but I don't even know if that was part of a filler or if that was just like a main character's pet.
So does that Angel make Bleach your number one then?
No, because it didn't come out. It didn't come out.
Oh, so it's bottom of the list for you. Gotcha.
Yeah. but it was interesting. Like I don't know if I'll I feel like I can't continue watching this unless I rewatch some kind of comprehensive video summary to like get really more into it, because there's obviously some significance to that villain that had a weapon from some person that he recognized and the mask of those skeleton people he fought at one point. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's definitely where I felt. I'm sure like Jason and My Hero Academia are half of these returning ones, but yeah. What about you? Did it live up to? It sounded like it lived up to expectations, mostly, sort of.
What did?
Bleach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's.
And what about My Hero? I don't think you touched on how you feel about My Hero yet.
My Hero. It's funny because My Hero season 5 I think was its weakest season. To the point where Angel didn't even remember what happened. Right? Who was I talking to? Yeah, I was talking to you.
Yeah, it was me, because I was trying to describe to you like what I thought we had just left on. You're like, oh wait, that was a different season.
And I said, yep, that's not even close to being the same season. That's how. And I think that's how a lot of the internet felt. My Hero season 5 wasn't.
It wasn't
its best season. Yeah, and so My Hero season 6, I already know going into the season what's going to happen, and like I already said, it's going to be My Hero's darkest season, and it's going to be its most intense season so far, and it only ramps up from here, which is what's really cool. That being said, I didn't think the first episode was that fun, except for the very end with Mirko, the rabbit hero. There's a shot where she's going through a hallway that looks really, really cool, as like the Nomu are popping out of like the walls, and so she's really, really awesome. And I'm caught up to all of these anime with the exception of one, which will tie into our next question. But My Hero.
Well, you guys need to rank. You guys need to rank 1 to 6. Yours.
Yeah,
still.
in terms of like my favorite, as far as these first episodes go, it's easy. It's Blue Lock for me, followed by Chainsaw Man, followed by Bleach, followed by Mob Psycho, then My Hero, and then Gundam. Mob Psycho is my 4th, only because not a lot happened in that episode. But like Angel said, it was like nice comfort food.
Yeah, for me it was Mob, Blue Lock, My Hero, Chainsaw Man, Gundam Episode 0, Gundam Episode 1, and then Bleach.
All right, cool. Next question is, which one would you continue to watch?
Blue Lock.
Blue Lock?
Yep. That's the one that really stuck with me more than anything else. Yeah.
Nice. Is there one that you, after seeing the first episode, that you don't think that you'd continue watching?
Me?
Yeah.
I think considering I'm only continuing Blue Lock, that might answer.
So you would just drop everything else.
I'd be curious to check back in with you when the season's done for things like Chainsaw Man, I think, and maybe for Mob Psycho because it hits a lot of like the check boxes.
Watch it from the beginning. It could be something you watch with the cats.
Mob.
Watch it with cats. Angel. I watched Mob Psycho season 1 and season 2 with Elvis. And quickly became one of my favorite animes. It's such a fun show to watch.
I think Gundam and Bleach are the ones that are going to fall to the wayside most quickly for me. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. What about you, Angel?
I've been wanting to rewatch it anyway, so that works. I'm definitely going to continue watching Blue Lock. Obviously, My Hero.
Oh.
I mean, regardless of, we're 6 seasons in. I'm not gonna stop watching it now unless it really falls on its face. Definitely Chainsaw Man. I don't know about Gundam. It's like I'm kind of torn. I literally have a list of other shows I need to watch, so I might just throw it on that list if I just need other anime once I run out of anime that I higher on priority to watch. Like, even just to give you an idea in case you've seen any of these. Oh my god, there's so many here. Like, I still need to watch more of Kaguya-sama because I haven't finished that, which I know you really like. I need to finish Spy Family, which I randomly saw like an episode. I randomly saw like the first season one night a couple months ago, and I really liked it. But then there's also... I can
only assume with that name that's just an anime Spy Kids?
No.
Oh,
it's much more fun.
I assume incorrectly.
Yeah, it's a much better premise.
It's a very wholesome show, which I was debating putting
on
Spy
here. Kids,
but
pretty wholesome.
It would have been a weird fit in these 6 shows. Spy Family is also a very good anime.
Yeah,
I recently rewatched Spy Kids 1 and 2, and they do not hold up.
I could have told you that.
Yeah, no, we watched it knowing it'd be bad, and ooh.
Yeah, if you still have like Crunchyroll subscription, I don't know what you did, or maybe it's just free. I would suggest watching the first episode of Spy Family, but
for some of them they just let me watch without a subscription.
Yeah, there's a few show that you can watch without a
Blue
subscription,
Lock.
And then like if you want to catch the newest episode, you will have to have a subscription for that.
Oh, that's clever. Hook you and then make you pay. Yeah.
And of course, Ranking of Kings, which I only started, like I saw like the first 2 episodes and I was
Ranking
hooked.
of Kings is so
but
good.
Then I couldn't, I just didn't have time to finish it. Just got busy. But that's one I've been really looking forward to finishing.
So good.
Literally had me in tears by the second episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, absolutely. That show's going to make you cry. For sure.
Mm-hmm. And Made in Abyss, which I've also heard a lot about, but I haven't watched.
I've heard a lot about Made in Abyss, but I haven't watched. I've also heard a lot about To Your Eternity, but don't really care that much. Oh crap! New episode of My Hero is out today. Okay, can't wait to see that. All right, and on to as far as me, the one that I haven't caught up is Gundam. I dropped it. I think like as of episode 2. I'm sure at some point I'll get back to it. But yeah, it was funny because I was actually really excited for this season because I thought the title is so good. The Witch from Mercury.
Yeah.
And it turns out that the witch just happens to be the main character. That's just like people just call her just the Witch from Mercury. It has no significance to the actual plot.
Like magic and science? Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's apparently it's not doing so hot in Japan, which is weird because they love their Gundam over there. They love their Gunpla.
Wow. And then I guess we have.
This is now the final category, which is a category that is most near and dear to my heart. Which is ranking the openings. Now, Angel, you know I love me a good anime opening.
Oh yeah, some animes have
you love yourself a good anime opening.
I love how there's like animes that we are either just like not a big fan of or just don't care about, but like their openings are like, oh man, yeah, I'll still listen to that.
Their openings are amazing. There have been anime that I watched just because the openings were so fire. Can I let me explain to you one anime that I watched because the anime was so good. The opening was so good.
Which one?
It's called Domestic Girlfriend. Okay?
I've heard of
it. And it's probably the trashiest anime that you'll ever watch in your life. So you follow main character. I think he's like 15 or 16, right? He's in love with his English teacher. His English teacher is on the younger side. She's about 24 years old. Something like that, right? Okay. And he's
but still much older than him?
Well, I think there's like a 6-year age difference. He's 16 in high school and she's 24.
Gotcha.
But or she might be a little bit younger. She might be 22. I don't know. Point being, he's in love with her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever. Then he hooks up with some other girl, right? He goes to town. He goes to town on her. Then he finds out that his dad is remarrying this woman, right?
Uh-oh. Thinking I know where this is going.
And then you're introduced to the mother, and the mother's like, "Hi, I'm going to be your new mom, and me and my 2 daughters are going to move in." And who are the 2 daughters?
Oh my god, is it the English teacher and the other girl?
It's the English teacher and the girl he hooked up with.
Oh my god.
I only watched that trash fire of an anime because the opening is so good. You have to watch this anime. Everybody has to watch this anime. Domestic Girlfriend. It's 12 episodes long.
And does it actually have an ending, or is it one of those?
It actually has an ending.
Huh. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, just to show you the power of
that. It shows you the power of anime openings. God, what a terrible show that is, but it's so much fun. Oh, it's disgusting. I love it. All right, let's get into ranking these openings. Who do we start with? Who wants to start? Jason. Still not here. Angel.
All right, I'll start. So, yeah, definitely Mob. I mean, we already had more than enough time to like hear that song because of Anime Expo when they like revealed it. But you know, it's been on my Spotify. I've been listening to it once in a while. All the intros from Mob have been great, and this one is no different.
Yeah,
like
one
visually,
by
it's
Mob
great.
Choir.
Like visually, it's great. The vocals are great. The beat is fast and I don't know, energetic, just how you would like it in a mob song. But it also has like this undertone to it that makes it feel a little more like, I guess, serious,
a little more epic,
but also puppet. Yeah.
So
yeah,
Mob Psycho was my favorite opening for this.
It was also my favorite.
It's your favorite?
Although I have returned.
Boom, boom. Mob Psycho takes it. Yeah. Mob Psycho's, like Angel stated, Mob Psycho's openings are always awesome. I think this might be my favorite Mob Psycho opening, but I know a lot of people really love that first one. It's probably my least favorite one.
It's been sequential for me. Like, I love the first one. Then when the second one came out, I'm like, oh man, they just like, it's like the first one but better. And then I like the third one. It's like they just keep.
The second one is so
better.
hype. The second one, when it hits that chorus and then that little fight scene happens, oh, so good. But yeah, I think Mob Psycho 3's opening is probably my favorite one for sure. Let's go on to our number 2s. Jason, we'll start with you this time.
Oh man, I need to give this some thought. I'm going through my notes here because I did, and I can't. Come back to me because I can't find. I didn't put the intros in their own list, so I'm going through all show by show trying to remember.
All right, my second favorite was Chainsaw Man. The song is good. The animation's good. The opening has a lot of movie references.
Yeah, I saw some Big Lebowski there. With
the Big Lebowski's.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah. There's
so was Chainsaw Man Chainsaw Man was the ska sounding one, right?
I'm sorry?
Kind of sound like a ska song.
Yeah, that's
intro. Yeah, I think that's my number 2 as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, there was
because it just stood out. It was different. It wasn't just generic kind of rock.
Mm-hmm.
It actually sounded unique. Yeah.
I remember seeing it was like a side by side of all the scenes that were referencing, and it almost felt like it was like practically the whole thing was just referencing movies, which made me go like, yeah, that's cool, like, you know, film appreciation from the creators, but it ends up not really telling you a lot about the show.
Which I think is a good thing. It doesn't spoil anything. A lot of anime things tend to spoil what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is definitely a problem, especially with shonen shows like My Hero, where you literally see like, oh, these are the main villains of the arc. Oh, I haven't met these characters yet. But literally, if they're not in the intro, then the intro, it pretty much gives you a summary. You could almost like catch up on a show you've watched a long time ago just by watching the intros. Like, I think I did that once, like for Naruto, when I took like a long break before I went back into it, and I just watched the intros, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly where I'm at now. Thank you, intros.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so Chainsaw Man is great because it doesn't really spoil anything. You see one big villain, but like for a split second. And aside from that, like I said, yeah, there are tons of movie references. They are friends. Texas Chainsaw Massacre because they have to in like those first 10 seconds. They do where we said Big Lebowski. What's the other one? Reservoir Dogs. There's a reference to that in there. There's strangely enough, there's a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood reference in there.
Yeah, I thought that's what that was.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, it can't be. That's so like weirdly specific and modern compared to the other ones.
Yeah, there's a Constantine reference in there. Yeah, there's a lot of cool references because the mangaka, I think, is when you do the story and the art. He's a huge movie buff. And that's also why that first episode had a lot of like stylistic scenes in it, like that upside down shot of the city. Yeah, like a little bit of Raimi influence in there. A lot of Tarantino as well. Yeah, Chainsaw Man's second openings are really, really cool. And also done by the same guy who did the tournament arcs opening for My Hero back in season 2.
Huh.
Which a lot of people really like that one. All right, on to our number 3.
Have a lot of good openings.
Yeah, I think all of these are, with the exception of one, I think they're all great.
Oh, yeah. I know which one we're talking about.
I don't know. I may throw you for a curveball.
One thing I'll say about Chainsaw Man, that one was my 4th.
Okay.
But just because I don't remember, I guess it just didn't have as big. I mean, like I said, like I watched all these kind of back to back, so I'm kind of going by like which ones left like the biggest impression on me, just like almost right away. But I will say though that I don't know which outro it is, but someone from work like shared an outro from Chainsaw Man, or one of the outros that, oh my god, that was an animated trip. It's like, they pretty much
ending. It was ending 3. Every episode has a different ending.
What?
And yep, every episode has a different ending. And
damn,
the one that you're thinking of was ending 3. I can already tell. It's I forgot what the name of it.
That must have been a nightmare to animate, but it just looks so amazing. Like, damn, like wow, that could have been an intro. But
it could have absolutely been the show's intro.
But yeah, my number 2, Blue Lock. Yeah, that one was my number 2. Just visually,
I thought Blue Lock was kind of generic. I put it pretty far down on
Blue
mine.
Lock is my 3rd.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, I thought a lot of these were kind of generic. They kind of blurred. Like I put Bleach as my 3rd just because it popped. Like it really, like visually, all that pink, it popped.
I just really like the energy from it. I mean, generic, yeah. I mean, to be clear, like someone generic isn't always
nothing not generic. To be clear, yeah.
But sometimes I like generic. Sometimes I just like my high energy, show the character shots. I mean, the most anime one almost felt like the Gundam one, which is probably why I put it very low. But Blue Lock,
I put it low too.
Blue Lock kind of had like a nice mix of it for my taste. And just because I remembered right now, when it makes sense, and I use that term loosely, when characters have pointy teeth, like in My Hero, it's like, oh, they're like, their ability is like being some kind of monster thing that has sharp teeth. But when a regular person just has sharp teeth, I don't know. I just don't like that. Like, there's one character in Blue Lock, just a regular soccer player that has like pointy teeth. It's like, why do you have pointy teeth? Did you like sharpen them? And there's someone else in Chainsaw Man that has that. I was
Denji, the main character.
Oh yeah, the main character. And I'm like,
Denji has
pointy teeth. I'm like, why do you have pointy teeth? I don't know. Because
he's never been to a dentist. Okay, he was born.
Yeah, but that doesn't. But you have like perfect sharp teeth. Like, I mean, it looks cool, but I don't know. It's weird. It's one of the few things that I overthink when I tend to be good about like suspension of disbelief. But especially in the soccer one, I think it stood out more in the soccer one than in Chainsaw Man. Especially after he gets the Chainsaw Man abilities. But the fact they had him beforehand has made it seem like they didn't show his teeth when he was a kid. They did a good job of like not opening his mouth. Maybe they do later. But it just made me think like, did he sharpen those teeth? Because I know some people in real life do that. It's kind of rare, but I mean, I've seen it. And I guess it's a thing. But I guess I'm just not quite used to it yet. It just makes me imagine them going to like the bathroom or something, just like getting a file and sharpening their teeth or something.
Yeah,
for reasons. But yeah, Blue Lock.
Blue Lock.
Blue Lock and My Hero, I kind of put them next to each other because they're kind of giving that same vibey energy.
Interesting.
But
My Hero, I also consider, I guess for the same reason, kind of low. Like,
what's your 3rd?
Yeah.
What's your 3rd?
Mine?
Yeah.
I think I already said it was Bleach.
Okay, Bleach.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Bleach was my second to least favorite. So
I think it is more visual for me, honestly, which is not a good thing when we're talking about intro songs, but just something about like the.
An anime opening has to consist of like not only good visuals, but
which is why I think it was so high for me. I was saying to you before we started recording, it felt kind of like had kind of a pop punk vibe, which was kind of kind of cool.
The reason that it's so low for me, and this kind of meta, is because, as I stated, I love anime openings. I think Bleach has some of the best anime openings for like long running series. And when you put this in the rotation of songs, maybe it's because I've been listening to those openings for like 10 years now, but it just doesn't mesh well with the rest of them, which is very, very odd to me.
That makes sense.
Because it's almost like those openings from the original series are sort of its time, and this one's a little the song is a little too modern.
I get that yeah, because I'm listening to it in a vacuum, essentially. Yeah. So for me, it's like, this is cool, but for you, the context changes everything.
Yeah, so in terms of it's still a very good opening, don't get me wrong, but just in context with the other 15 openings, it's probably ranks low there, or probably mid to like mid-low in terms of those 16 openings now, so that was your fourth.
Third.
That was your third, okay.
Well, honestly, the bottom three are a wash for me. So you guys tell me yours.
Okay.
I already said my whole ranking at this point. It was just Mob, Blue Lock, and My Hero are pretty much on the same thing. Chainsaw Man, then Gundam 1, and then Bleach.
Yeah, Gundam is my fourth favorite, mainly because of the song. I really like the song. I really like the little techno that they put in there. Plus, I think this is the only opening that has a female artist.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, it is. That's
out of all six of these.
Yeah, of all six, it is.
Yeah, I really like the song. The visuals are kind of meh. It is what it is. Bleach, like I said, fifth in there because of just the context. Kind of drags it down. My least favorite is My Hero's opening.
It's weak.
It's very weak. My Hero had like a string of 7 really awesome openings, and the last 4 openings have just fell flat for me. I think the song sucks. I think the first half of the opening, where it has like this comic book art style to it, it does look really cool, but after the chorus they just switch over to regular animation, and it just doesn't hit as hard as that first half.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about My Hero Academia, especially compared to the other, because, I'm giving the new shows a little slack because they're new, but the thing that struck me about My Hero Academia is, like, compared to the other 2 returning shows, it didn't have, like, the production flourishes in the song. Like, it was just very, like...
Well, that first half, where it has, like, that comic book vibe.
Yeah, it has that. You're right. But, I mean, it didn't have the same, like... I don't know. It almost felt like lower budget than the other 2 intros.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Like I said, My Hero, I forgot what's the Angel. I think probably the one that gets the most love is the opening with the Yakuza arc. That hideout arc. Remember that? That opening is awesome. Not only that, season 3 also had a really awesome opening. The I Keep My Ideals opening. My Hero had really awesome openings, and then season 4 had a really bad opening, and then season 5 both were boring as hell, and then this one just continues the streak of mediocre My Hero opening. So hopefully, the next opening will pick it up. Every season has 2 openings, so hopefully the next one's better. But man, I have no faith in the openings for the show anymore. Considering the subject matter of this season, it's kind of weak.
But I guess as far as just like openings in general, though, especially with these because we had to rank them, like none of them, with the exception of Mob, were like an instant animation aside. Like, I love this song. Like, let me add it to my constant rotation, because I know I did that for almost every Attack on Titan song, even like the later ones, or and I know you as well, Kevin, for the Demon Slayer ones. Like, you hear the song and then you're like awesome. Damn, like, they just really stick with you. And I'm honestly having a hard time, even I literally saw some of these like right before we recorded, and I can't remember much about them except for
Mob Psycho.
Yeah, Mob Psycho, and that one.
Yeah, I'm right there.
And I haven't even seen that one as many
Yeah.
times as like I would have liked to by now, just because I've been busy. But you know, it's really hard to forget that specific visual style because it was kind of it almost kept it simple, but just by being so like abstract. But it was easy to keep up with. I don't know. Like the movie references were great, but there's just a lot going on. Like if I try to just absolutely. Like if I'm just like remembering it or just trying to reminisce about it, it just feels like a jumble of characters like doing random stuff. Like, oh, they're in a car, they're now on a table, now they're bowling. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, nothing bad with it, of course, but you know, it's just the memorability of it, I guess.
To the exact point, Angel, I did letter grade rankings for all the intros, and the only one that got an A was Mob Psycho. Everything else was like range.
Yeah, Mob Psycho's opening is.
And I didn't want to be mean, so I did nothing below B minus, but everything's like B to wow. B minus, and then Mob is like A. And I know no one else would see this list, but I felt bad because they're not bad. They're just not.
Yeah, they're not
standout.
Exactly. My Hero, I think, is not good.
That's my lowest. That's B minus.
Gotcha.
Everything else was like B's and B pluses. Yeah. Gundam, I think, was a B. Yeah.
Gundam was solid. Yeah. Same with Angel. I don't think I put any of these songs on my like anime opening playlist except for Mob Psycho's. As much as I love Chainsaw Man, the opening is very, very good, but there's nothing memorable. The full song is even weirder than what we got in that opening. I suggest you guys listen to the full thing because it goes some places.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, there's a whole orchestral arrangement in there. It gets very strange.
I would not have guessed that, honestly.
Blue Locks is very generic. I think Blue Lock I'll probably put in there. Gundam, I really like that song. I'll probably put it on there. But like Bleach and My Hero, it's like I can go without. It's very, especially Bleach. Bleach is very generic for sure. Very generic J-rock. But yeah, I think that does it with this little project of ours.
Yeah. Damn.
Good work, everyone. Good work, team.
Quite the episode after a while. Also, apologies.
Well,
I'm not on my usual setup because of said move, so I'm just recording off the. If I sound weird, that's probably why. But yeah.
That's okay. This whole episode's been a journey. My headphones died like 20 minutes ago, and I had to like leave to get other headphones while we were recording.
I mean, you guys were apparently unable to hear me at some point. I was able to hear you the whole time.
We also couldn't hear you. At one point, my mic cut out, so there might be a weird skip, like it stopped recording. And
there was a point where I couldn't hear you, and then I think I just said something, but it seemed like it was fine.
We are shaking off the rust from not recording. It's the first time we skipped. Let alone 2 episodes, so we're shaking off that rust. That's all.
Yeah. But you know, life happens sometimes, and
and
I'm not gonna say like, oh, it's not gonna happen again. It may happen in the future, but that's kind of
it's about to happen again. Actually,
there you go.
Our next episode, heads up, guys. Our next episode, we talked about this before, listeners, is in 3 weeks, not 2 weeks, because I'm out of town, and it's Thanksgiving weekend. So we'll be back on the usual cadence, but this one's off because it's an off week. Then we're going to skip next week and be back on our usual 2-week cadence in 2 weeks after what would have been next week. So it's 3 weeks.
And then I go to Japan in January for like 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes.
But depending on when those 2 weeks are, we might plan. Or 2 of us. So the reason we didn't just do like a 2-person show, for if anyone wants the real Inside Baseball, is we needed to get our anime project done. And that required all 3 of us. So we were just waiting for all 3 of us. But in the future, we should be able to do 2-man shows like we've done in the past if needed. So you won't be missing us too long, dear listeners. We're just doing one more 3-week gap to get back on the usual cycle, I think.
Cool. Yeah. So cool. That'll do it for this episode. Jason, take us out with this one.
Sure. Let me shake off the rust here again. So you can find us on all the things. We are on Twitter, as long as Twitter's still around, at Random Nintendo. We are not paying $8 to be verified, but no one's impersonating us. No one cares enough. So we're on Twitter at Random Nintendo. We're on YouTube. RandomNintendo.com is our channel. We just recently, YouTube's introducing YouTube handles, so you might just be able to find us under at Random Nintendo now. I need to see how that works, but I already approved the name, so we should be good. But we're also on podcast apps. That's the easiest way to find us. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. You name it, we're there. Just look for Ram Nintendo. Individually, we're on Twitter as long as Twitter's alive. Well, I don't know if you guys are playing Leave. I'm going down with the ship. I don't care. So as long as Twitter's alive, you can find me at JSR7. I assume Angel will continue to be at Weiro, WEIRO_O. I assume, Kevin, you're going to still be at KVN Gomi. If we all start tooting on Mastodon, we'll, of course, share those handles at that time. But for now, it's tweets, not toots. And that's it for the show notes. So I guess to kick it. Oh, and happy 10th anniversary to the Wii U. It turns 10 next week. So if you want to feel really old, the Wii is a decade old. Wii U is a decade old. Anyway, with that in mind, who wants final word? Kevin, am I kicking it back to you for final word?
Angel, do you have a favorite word? Final
yeah,
word, favorite word. Do you have a favorite word? After that, you can give your final word.
Bowser's one of them. Yeah, I think the only appropriate final word right now is rest in peace, Kevin Conroy.